Chapter 383. Yu Cheng and the others' communication with Yu Shiling was cut off, so Yu Shiling would know that something had happened to them. He would know that Lin Feng had most likely already heard the news, so the Yu family and the Wind God sect would start making preparations to confront Xianmen Tianzong, who would come looking for trouble. Lin Feng had already thought of this before, so he wasn't afraid of the Yu family and the Wind God sect knowing that he was going there. This time he deliberately wanted to blow the matter up. But because he had to wait for Lu Jikuan to deliver the Death Energy Stone, Lin Feng couldn't let Yu Cheng and the others' communication be cut off the moment they were caught. Since the communication was cut off, and Lin Feng and Xianmen Tianzong hadn't come looking for them, there were only three possibilities. Either Yu Cheng and the others had met with some other accident and lost contact, and Yu Shiling could easily determine whether there was a problem in this aspect. Or Lin Feng and Xianmen Tianzong had admitted defeat and swallowed their anger. But according to Lin Feng's previous behavior, the possibility was completely zero. Then there was only the third possibility, and that was that Lin Feng had already seen that this was a trap, so he didn't step into it. At this time, the Yu family and the Wind God sect would be on guard against Lin Feng playing other tricks. In order to numb the opponent, after capturing Yu Cheng and the others, Lin Feng still had them maintain contact with the other side. Of course, under Lin Feng's control of magic power, Yu Cheng and the others had no room to resist or play any tricks. And now, the time was completely ripe, so he ordered Yu Cheng and the others to cut off contact, alarming Yu Shiling and the others, and increasing their confidence in taking action. Then, Lin Feng manipulated the Iron Tree Doppelganger, and directly brought Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, Kong Nanhua, Miao Shihao, Jie Yu and the others to the hiding place of Yu Shiling and the others. Apart from Xiao Yan, who had temporarily lost his battle prowess and was cultivating in seclusion, Xianmen Tianzong had turned out in full force. However, Lin Feng's main body did not go there. He was still guarding Mount Yujing. He smiled and released a purple aura that turned into an illusion of light and shadow. He re-established contact with the Golden Crow Great Sage in the vast land of infinite wilderness. The time is ripe. All right. The Golden Crow Great Sage answered crisply, and the connection was cut off. After ending the call with the Golden Crow Great Sage, Lin Feng shot out another wisp of purple gas, which turned into a brand new illusion of light and shadow. A voice came from the other side. Is it starting? Silently, Lin Feng replied. Don't be slower than that old Golden Crow. The other party smiled and said, Don't worry, I will only be earlier than him. After ending the call, Lin Feng smiled. It's time for me to get going. In the void, Mount Yujing, which was surrounded by purple gas, suddenly shook. The branches and leaves of the Xiantian treasure tree at the top of the mountain swayed, flashing with colorful light. The next moment, the huge mountain suddenly disappeared in the void. Meanwhile, in Mount Kunlun, Lin Feng's Iron Tree clone led the group, riding on Jie Yu and Kuei Niu King respectively. Soon, they arrived at the place where Yu Shiling and the Yuanying cultivator of the Wind God sect were hiding. Silently, Lin Feng said, Be careful. Everyone agreed in unison, and immediately set off in two groups. Kong Nanhua, Kuei Niu King, Zhu Yi Wang Lin, and Yang Qing formed a team to find trouble with the Wind God sect. Miao Shihao, Tiny Tot, Tunten, Jie Yu, and Yu Hongyan formed a team to go to the valley where Yu Shiling and the other cultivators of the Yu family were. Jie Yu revealed his incomparably huge dragon body and hovered above the valley. Tiny Shi Tianhao stood on his head, silently staring at the valley below, and slowly said, Jie Yu, let's go down. Black Dragon Jie Yu let out a long roar, turned into a black light, and rushed down to the valley below like a meteor. In the valley, Yu Shiling, who had discovered that Yu Cheng and the others had lost contact with him, had been waiting for a long time. When he discovered the aura fluctuations of Jie Yu and the others, he immediately clasped his palms together, and the ice-blue Xianming true water appeared, turning into a huge ice shield. Jie Yu was like a sharp spear, heavily piercing the ice shield and directly shattering it. However, the power of Jie Yu's attack was also completely neutralized by Yu Shiling's ice shield, and the momentum was immediately stopped. Xianming True Water is indeed extraordinary. Although it is not as gifted as the demon race's Xianming Beast race, it is still very rare. Jiayu's heart trembled. Although he was an early-stage demon king, the dragon race was innately strong, and it was not a problem for him to fight against a mid-stage Yuanying human cultivator. However, a mid-stage Yuanying cultivator like Yu Shiling who had mastered Xianming True Water made the old black dragon have no choice but to be careful. However, there was someone who would not give Jiayu this opportunity. The little guy on his head that was even more ferocious than an archaic vicious beast cub directly soared into the sky, turning into a bolt of lightning, and charged towards Yu Shiling with an even more ferocious attitude than Jiayu. Yu Shiling coldly snorted. "Let's see how capable a junior like you is." He formed a hand seal, and a large amount of Xianming True Water suddenly appeared in the air. It gathered together like a glacier, blocking the little guy's path. Wind and lightning surged on the little Shi Tianhao's body, and his entire body turned into a 2-meter-tall ghost of wind and lightning. A ferocious fist bombarded the Xianming True Water. The Xianming True Water fluctuated, but it did not shatter. Taking a deep breath, the golden elixir in Shi Tianhao's body trembled. The 9 orifices of the Xiantian realm started to devour the spiritual energy and convert it into boundless arcane energy. The power of wind and lightning that shrouded Shi Tianhao interacted with each other, increasing his strength once more. The ghost of wind and lightning didn't grow in size, but its body that was originally purple had turned pitch black. Even Yu Shiling's Xianming True Water couldn't withstand the violent energy. It was shattered layer by layer like a glacier. Yu Shiling's heart trembled. He had long heard that Shi Tianhao's arcane energy was robust, and his cultivation in the golden elixir period wasn't any weaker than a Yuanying cultivator. In the past, Yu Shiling felt that with his mid-stage Yuanying cultivation, his arcane energy would surpass an early-stage Yuanying cultivator in terms of quantity and quality. Thus, he should be able to suppress the little guy. But after exchanging blows, he realized that the advantage he had was extremely small. It was so small that it couldn't determine the outcome of the battle. Thinking about it, Yu Shiling's Xianming True Water emitted an even more intimidating aura. It was desolate and ancient, as if it had existed since ancient times. It froze everything in the surroundings, including space. Shi Tianhao had transformed into a massive body of wind and lightning. Wind and lightning surged on his face, making it impossible to see his facial features. However, Yu Shiling could sense a smile on Shi Tianhao's face. With a buzzing sound, a 3-legged bronze cauldron appeared above Shi Tianhao's head. As an azure luster flickered, Shi Tianhao's arcane energy was infused into his body. Layers of spatial fluctuations bombarded Yu Shiling's Xianming True Water. Shi Tianhao let out a thunderous roar, and changed his stance into the double pole hammer of the 8 trigram sky-crumbling hammer. The destructive power exploded continuously, and in an instant, it actually forcefully broke through Yu Shiling's Xianming True Water. Yu Shiling's expression didn't change. He put his palms together, and an extremely condensed drop of Xianming True Water appeared above his head. The ice blue Xianming True Water continuously compressed until it became pure black, cold and gloomy. Eternal Xianming Arrow. Yu Shiling activated his arcane energy, and the black water droplet turned into a slender stream of light, shooting towards Shi Tianhao like an arrow released from a bow. The primordial Xianming arrow flew through the space, leaving behind a clear black line. That was not the remnant of dermic powers. Instead, the primordial Xianming arrow had frozen and shattered the space it passed through, forming a crack in space. Wherever the eternal Xianming arrow passed through, everything in the world was frozen and shattered. Facing this arrow, Shi Tianhao suddenly raised his hand and softly shouted, "Space." The space formula of the black-yellow forward formula was activated, and a majestic force that filled the surroundings forcefully suppressed the void. However, Yu Shiling's cultivation was far above that of Songqing Yuan from the Heaven Pool sect in the Desolate Sea Assembly. The little guy's cultivation was at the middle stage of the Aura's core stage, so he was unable to completely stop the primordial Xianming arrow. However, under the power of the space formula that suppressed the surrounding space, even the previously incomparably domineering eternal Xianming arrow became sluggish. From its original lightning-fast speed, it instantly became difficult to move. Shi Tianhao patted his head, and a white light flew out. A pure white round mirror appeared in the air. It was the Ice Soul Cold Light mirror that he had won from defeating Song Qingyuan at the Desolate Sea Assembly. With Lin Feng's help, this artifact had already been successfully refined by Shi Tianhao. The Ice Soul Cold Light mirror aimed at the eternal Xianming arrow in the air, and a beam of blue-white mirror light shot out, enveloping the arrow. Yu Shiling's Xianming True Water would have the upper hand if he had only used the mirror to fight against the Xianming True Water. However, the eternal Xianming arrow had already been suppressed by Shi Tianhao's space formula. Now that it was illuminated by the mirror light of the Ice Soul Cold Light mirror, it immediately crumbled and disappeared. Miao Shihao and Jieyu stood in the air without doing anything, while Tunten and Yu Hongyan respectively began to sweep through the Yu family's golden elixir period and foundation establishment stage cultivators in the valley. However, at this moment, a majestic will suddenly came from the distant sky, arriving in the blink of an eye. Miao Shihao and Jieyu exchanged a look. Sect leader's prediction was indeed correct. A crack was torn in the sky in the distance, and a person walked out from it. The magic power around his body shook the void, and a clear chi shot straight into the 9 heavens from the top of his head. It was another Yuanying middle-stage ancestor of the Yu family. However, this person was not the most eye-catching. After this Yuanying middle-stage ancestor came out from the crack in space, he moved to the side, making way for the person behind him. It was an old man with white hair and beard. His cold gaze swept across Shi Tianhao, Miao Shihao and the others, and he coldly snorted. Xianmen Tianzong humph. A shadow flickered above his head, and an illusory figure flew out, instantly turning into a giant that was dozens of feet tall. This giant stood in the air with only one arm, and only one eye on its face. That eye was like a water droplet condensed into ice crystals, emitting a powerful force that could freeze the entire world. As soon as the giant appeared, the Kunlun mountain range within a radius of 1,000 miles turned into a world of ice and snow in a split second. However, it was not wrapped in silver, but a dense black mass, causing one's heart to sink. When Xianmen Tianzong and the others saw this scene, their hearts trembled. Miao Shihao softly said, "Heaven and Earth Avatar, late-stage Yuanying." Chapter 384. In the cultivation world of the Heaven Primordial World, Qi Cultivation, Foundation Establishment, Golden Elixir, Yuanying and Primordial Soul, there was a huge gap between the major realms. Most people could not cross it. Within the same major realm, there was also a difference in power between minor realms. However, the difference in power was different between different realms. Below the primordial divinity realm, the difference in strength between the minor realms, from the largest to the smallest, was ranked as follows. Late-stage nascent soul and middle-stage nascent soul, middle-stage gold core and early-stage gold core, and the 12th tier of Qi refining tier and 11th tier. The difference in power between late Yuanying and middle Yuanying was huge. The reason was the existence of universal Dharma. Universal Dharma represented the combination and sublimation of a cultivator's magical powers and magic power. It was extremely powerful. It was a sign that Yuanying had become strong to the extreme. It was a preparation for primordial soul. In a way, it could be seen as a demigod. During the opening ceremony outside the Sand Continent city, Miao Shihao had faced Yu Qianshan, who was in the middle Yuanying, with his early Yuanying cultivation. Although it was difficult to win, he was not afraid. He was now in the middle Yuanying cultivation. If he fought Yu Qianshan now, he would definitely win. However, against the late Yuanying patriarch Yu Ilwan, who had already condensed universal Dharma, the pressure was immense. Supernatural state, a Dumbra flower, vast waves water, and all sorts of exquisite spells were used in turn. Only then could he barely contend with Yu Ilwan. However, he could only barely protect himself. If the battle dragged on, he would inevitably lose. It was hard to say if he could even escape. Yu Ilwan stood quietly in the sky, not doing anything other than releasing his Dharma idol, which was dozens of feet tall. Wherever the Cyclops looked, everything was frozen. Whether it was living creatures or unmoving mountains, they were all turned into black ice crystals. Miao Shihao's supernatural state had the miraculous ability to copy other people's spells, but in the face of Yu Ilwan's attack, the supernatural state was powerless. The perfect diamond-shaped shining mirror, was immediately frozen into black ice crystals when it came into contact with the Cyclops' icy blue gaze. A gust of cold wind blew between heaven and earth, and the black ice crystal directly shattered into fine powder, falling from the sky. Although the surging waves' water that could cleanse other people's spells wouldn't be frozen, and could even dissolve a part of the blue light. Compared to the thick blue light pillar, the surging waves' water was like an ant trying to shake a tree, seemingly powerless. Of Miao Shihao's various methods, at this moment, only the extremely explosive Adumbra could play a certain role. Every time the blue light was unmatched, Miao Shihao would use the Adumbra to fight, borrowing the Adumbra's ability to instantly explode all of its power, temporarily exploding the blue light. However, the Adumbra flower consumed a lot of magic power, so Miao Shihao didn't dare to use it easily. He could only use it once when he had no other choice. Even so, Miao Shihao felt that his magic power was severely consumed. After advancing to the middle stage of Yuanying, he would receive the 9 heavens clear qi into his body. With this source of living water, the cultivator's magic power would become extremely abundant. However, each of Miao Shihao's Adumbra flowers consumed most of his magic power in one go. At this time he was somewhat exhausted. "My sect master, if you don't make a move, Brother Shihao won't be able to endure it." Miao Shihao somewhat resentfully thought to himself. Right now, it was all up to him to block Yu Ilwan. Otherwise, a casual attack from Yu Ilwan would probably be able to kill Tuntin or Yu Hongyan. Among the others, Jie Yu faced another middle stage Yuanying Yu family patriarch. Although he was one stage lower, he could still contend with him with the natural capital of the Dragon Clan. However, although Yu Ilwan focused all his energy on Miao Shihao, just the aftermath of his attack was enough to cause great trouble for Shi Tianhao, Jie Yu and the others. Originally, they could still compete with their opponents, but now they were at a disadvantage. Tuntin and Yu Hongyan, although there were only 2 of them, had already beaten the 4 golden elixir period Yu family cultivators, and a large number of foundation establishment stage cultivators in the valley, until they cried for their parents. However, after Yu Ilwan appeared, just the suppression of his aura made it difficult for the 2 of them to display their full strength. They felt as if their limbs and bones were about to freeze, their bodies sluggish, making it extremely strenuous to circulate them. In an instant, Yu Hongyan and Tuntin had fallen from having the upper hand to being besieged from all sides, and were in dire straits. Silently, Yu Ilwan looked at Miao Shihao and said, "If you're waiting for reinforcements from your fellow sect members, there's no need for that because they can't even protect themselves at this moment." As if to illustrate his words, 2 extremely powerful ripples of energy suddenly spread from the distant horizon, as if 2 giant tornadoes were wreaking havoc across the world. Powerful and domineering astral winds tore through the horizon, shooting in all directions. It was as if they wanted to slice the distant sky into tiny pieces. The 2 ripples of energy were as powerful as Yu Ilwan's. There were also 2 late Yuanying great cultivators who had cultivated their avatars. From the ripples of energy, one could tell that they were the true inheritances of the Wind God sect. Yu Ilwan's voice was not loud, but it reverberated across the world. "You've been arrogant for long enough. Today, you'll pay the price for your previous arrogant words and actions." He calmly looked at the Xianmen Tianzong group, his tone indifferent, as if he was talking about something that could not be any more ordinary. From Yu Ilwan's point of view, Xianmen Tianzong indeed had very strong potential. Their leader, Lin Feng, had an unfathomable cultivation, and every disciple in the sect was a monster with astonishing talent. But right now the Xiangate Sky sect is in a rather awkward period, and that is because Xiaoyan, Shi Tianhao and the rest have only trained for a short period of time. Even though their strength is strong, they still have their limits. In Xianmen Tianzong, other than Lin Feng, the one with the highest cultivation was only Miao Shihao in the middle stage of Yuanying. Their overall strength was like an hourglass. As the leader of a sect, Lin Feng had resisted the 9 glory sky-shattering formation by himself by the North Wind Sea. His strength was indeed worthy of admiration, and his disciples could be said to be invincible in the same realm. However, in the middle stage of Yuanying, which was the core and high-end combat power, Xianmen Tianzong appeared to be very weak. In time, When Xiao Yan and the rest had completely grown up, they would naturally be able to fill this gap. However, now was the time when Xianmen Tianzong was at its weakest. If they missed this period, Xiao Yan and the rest would completely mature. With the potential they had displayed so far, Xianmen Tianzong's strength would show explosive growth, and they would truly soar into the sky. It was precisely because they saw this that the Yu clan and the Wind God sect acted decisively. They wanted to seize this best opportunity. In this battle, the Yu clan and the Wind God sect's target was the group of monsters in Xianmen Tianzong. They wanted to strangle them in the cradle. Of course, for the Yu clan, the most important target was the tiny Shi Tianhao. He was also their last target for this operation. For this reason, the two great forces sent out a total of 3 late-stage Yuanying cultivators and 4 middle-stage Yuanying cultivators. In terms of strength, they completely crushed everyone in Xianmen Tianzong, except for Lin Feng. Yu Ilwan wasn't exaggerating when he said that Zhu Yi and the rest on the other side couldn't even protect themselves. This was because they had to face the Wind God sect's 2 late-stage Yuanying ancestors and 2 middle-stage Yuanying ancestors. The pressure they faced was even greater than that of Shi Tianhao and Miao Shihao. The master of Xian Gate should have received the news by now. Yu Ilwan looked up at the sky and murmured, "But even if he wants to help, he won't be able to." Miao Shihao's Adumbra once again exploded in the blue pillar of light released by Ilwan's Dharma idol. His face showed obvious signs of fatigue. The amount of magic power had always been Brother Shihao's shortcoming. He rolled his eyes at Yu Ilwan. "Don't brag too early. You seem to have forgotten how your brother Yuanfeng died?" Yu Ilwan's expression didn't change in the slightest as he nodded. "Of course I remember. He was crushed to death by your Xianmen Tianzong's Yujing Mountain. Not even his bones were left." His expression was full of indifference, causing Miao Shihao to frown as a chill surged from the bottom of his heart. Since we haven't forgotten how old Six died, how could we not be on guard against the master of Xian Gate directly controlling Yujing Mountain to descend here? Yu Ilwan looked at Miao Shihao calmly. Other than the demon race's 9 glory sky-shattering formation, there are other powerful formations that can move in this world. Hearing Yu Ilwan's words, Miao Shihao's expression changed slightly as he vaguely thought of something. Could it be that the Wind God sect moved their own 9 glory astral gale formation here? Yu Ilwan looked at the sky above his head. "That's right. From the moment I appeared, this part of the world has already been enveloped by the 9 glory astral gale formation. Even if the master of Xian Gate descends with Yujing Mountain, he won't be able to break through it in a short period of time." He lowered his head and looked at the tiny Shi Tianhao who was fighting with Yu Shirling. "Even if it really is broken through in a short period of time, before that happens, all of you will already be dead." On the other side, Zhu Yi and the others had already received this news. Zhu Yi stared at the Wind God sect's Yuanying ancestor in front of him with a calm expression. "Moving your sect's protective formation here, aren't you afraid that others will take advantage of this and trample on your sect's gates?" The Wind God sect's Yuanying ancestor smiled and said, "How can you predict our sect's methods? I'm not afraid to tell you that there's still a 9 glory astral gale formation, protecting the Divine Wind Mountain." Zhu Yi's eyes flashed. "You have the ability to set up 2 9 glory astral gale formations. That's not something you need to worry about." The Yuanying ancestor sneered. "All you need to know is that none of you will leave this place alive today." At this moment, a voice suddenly reverberated between heaven and earth. "Oh, I don't think so." Before the voice finished speaking, the entire world started to change. Countless rays of light interweaved in a strange trajectory and pattern in the sky, forming an incomparably huge formation. Within the formation, various mysterious runes and diagrams rose and fell, merging together and gradually forming a huge diagram with black and white poles, covering the sky and earth. Before the Wind God sect and Yu clan cultivators could react, the formation spread out, and Yu Ilwan and the other 2 late-stage Yuanying cultivators were all sucked into the formation. Lin Feng's iron tree clone gradually appeared in the void, silently looking down at the people below. The situation of the battle changed in an instant. Without the suppression of Yu Ilwan and the other 2 late-stage Yuanying ancestors, Zhu Yi Xiaobudian, Miao Shihao and the others immediately regained the upper hand against the 4 mid-stage Yuanying cultivators. At this moment, a drop of water that looked like an ice crystal suddenly appeared between heaven and earth, silently floating in front of Lin Feng. This spell formation of yours is indeed marvelous. It can actually hide itself in the void, and hide directly inside the 9 heavens astral gale formation. Even I was fooled by you. The water droplet gradually grew to a height of 1 zhang, and turned into an ice door. A person walked out from it. This person glanced at Lin Feng and slowly said, "However, you're just a clone here, it's useless. Today, I'll first kill your disciple and destroy your clone." Lin Feng calmly looked at the middle-aged man in front of him. "You clan's patriarch, Lord Xianming Yuxintao?" Chapter 385. The 3 late-stage Yuanying cultivators brought great pressure to Xianmen Tianzong and the others. However, Lin Feng was already prepared. Although his main body did not arrive, he let the Iron Tree doppelganger bring the yin and yang life and death formation. In the battle before the opening ceremony outside the Sand Continent City, the successor of the Taishu Temple, Pang Jia, who had cultivated the Dharma of heaven and earth in the late-stage Yuanying, was trapped in the yin and yang life and death formation, and was unable to escape. At this moment, Yu Ilwan and the other 2 late-stage Yuanying cultivators were swept away by Lin Feng's yin and yang life and death formation, which immediately caused a devastating blow to the power of the Xianmen clan and the Wind God sect. The situation of the battle turned in an instant, and the situation was leaning towards Xianmen Tianzong. The Yu clan master, Lord Xianming Yuxintao, who was hiding at the side, finally could not sit still and appeared in the void. Silently, he looked at Lin Feng and the yin and yang life and death formation, and was secretly shocked. Just now, when this formation was not officially activated, it was completely integrated with the heaven and earth without leaving a trace. It really has some skill. Lin Feng also looked at Yuxintao with an indifferent face. Although it was only his doppelganger here, he was not afraid. "Lord Xianming, it's an honor to meet you," Lin Feng said indifferently. Yuxintao also looked calm. "Sect Master Lin, you seem to have already expected me to be here. You used a doppelganger to sneak in with the formation. Are you planning to cooperate with the main body outside? I won't give you this chance. The 9 heavens hurricane formation will completely ignore everything that happens inside, and focus on defending the outside. Here, I will capture and kill your doppelganger and disciple." Lin Feng smiled and raised his hand to point at the yin and yang life and death formation above his head. "You and I don't need to say anything else. Let's see what we can do. Yeah, let's skip the unnecessary formalities." Slowly, Yuxintao said, "My Yu family has placed a heavy bet on Shitiani, and you, Xianmen Tianzong, have placed your bet on Shitianhao. There is bound to be a battle between us, and only one side will be the winner." Lin Feng said lightly, "You're wrong. There's no such thing as winning or losing. Shi Tianhao is my disciple, and I'm only teaching him. Someone owes him justice, and he has to pay for it." Yuxintao nodded. "That's right. You, Xianmen Tianzong, killed 2 Yuanying disciples of my Yu clan. Today you'll have to pay some interest." As he spoke, he suddenly stretched out his hand, and his palm turned into a giant hand that covered the sky, grabbing at the tiny Shi Tianhao below. Lin Feng clasped his hands together, formed a spell and calmly said, "After today, there will be more than 2 Yuanying periods. Yin and Yang life and death formation open. The 6 paths of life and death, the change of heaven and earth begin." The huge formation in the sky flashed, and the next moment, it appeared above the tiny one, blocking the giant hand that Yuxintao had transformed into. The giant hand that seemed to be able to cover the heaven and earth disappeared as soon as it came into contact with the yin and yang life and death formation. Endless purple qi and central earth divine light emerged in the formation. The purple qi floated up and turned into a vast sky, while the yellow light sank down and turned into an incomparably thick earth. The heaven and earth merged into one, and the entire region where everyone was integrated into the formation. Even Yuxintao, a primordial divinity cultivator, was now in the world formed by the yin and yang life and death formation. The sky was above, and the thick earth was below. Kunlun Mountain had disappeared, and only a brand new world was left. Rumor has it that this formation stabilized a medium-class world passage that almost collapsed. It's really extraordinary. Silently, Yu Xintao watched all this, and the next moment, the heaven and earth suddenly turned upside down, and the whole world seemed to be distorted. Lin Feng had already launched the power of the change of heaven and earth. The protective magic around Yu Xintao's body was originally as cold as ice, but at this moment, it became hot, as if it was about to turn into a burning fire. Not only was the world itself turned upside down, but even the various attributes of the spiritual qi in the world were also distorted and changed. Yu Xintao's body did not move, but his eyes suddenly turned icy blue, and as if there was an endless ocean of Xianming real water was released. The icy blue Xianming real water quickly condensed, and finally turned into a pure black ice shield, from which an ancient and desolate aura leaked out, as if it had existed for countless years, immortal and indestructible. This was the Xianming shield, the strongest defensive magic in the Yu family's Xianming formula. In the past, the Yu family's Yuanying stage cultivator, Yu Qianshan, had also used this magic in an attempt to block Lin Feng's smash of heaven and earth. In the end, it was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot, and he was directly crushed. However, the Xianming shield that Yu Xintao was using now was completely different. The huge power of the yin and yang life and death formation that could overturn heaven and earth could not destroy it, and it effectively protected Yu Xintao. However, with such a passive defense, Yu Xintao was like Pang Jie and the hexagonal sword, trapped in the formation and unable to escape. Yu Xintao smiled coldly. As a Taoism world wayfarer, Pang Jie is in the late Yuanying stage, and he cultivates the wonderful magic of the Taishu temple. He also has the Dharma treasure, the hexagonal sword, to protect himself. Even primordial soul adepts like me can't do anything to him easily. However, a Yuanying cultivator is a Yuanying cultivator after all. He is not a real primordial soul adept. Although the Dharma treasure has a primordial spirit, it is not a real primordial soul adept. Yu Xintao's eyes, which had turned icy blue, suddenly turned pitch black. You can trap them, but you can't trap me. As soon as he finished speaking, Yu Xintao's figure changed abruptly. He emitted a dark blue light, and the space in the yin and yang life and death formation was illuminated in blue. In the blue light, Yu Xintao's figure disappeared, and a piece of ice spirit that was almost black gradually emerged from the blue light. The ice spirit grew in size, and in the end, it had a diameter of more than 1,000 feet. Silently, it floated between heaven and earth, wrapped in blue light. Endless cold air was emitted from the ice spirit, and the entire space seemed to be frozen. With the black ice spirit as the core, countless transparent ice and snow spread rapidly in all directions. Wherever it passed, everything that came into contact with the cold air was frozen into ice and snow. 10 miles, 100 miles, up to 1,000 miles, it kept expanding. The grass, the trees, the flowers, the trees, the mountains, the rivers, the wind and clouds, the sun, the moon and the stars, everything was frozen. Yu Xintao wanted to use his own supernatural power to completely freeze the huge yin and yang life and death formation. He wanted to completely freeze the heaven and earth in the formation. In this way, even the normal operation of the formation could not be carried out. Incarnation. This is the primordial spirit incarnation. Lin Feng looked at the scene and nodded. This is the true power of a primordial soul adept. The primordial soul realm was the ultimate goal that countless adepts dreamed of, because it represented true longevity, freedom, and detachment from nature. Later stage Yuanying adepts cultivated the Dharma of heaven and earth. Yuanying was strengthened to the extreme, becoming one with the Dharma of heaven and earth. Combined with the power of the law of the Great Way, if they succeeded, they could cultivate the primordial spirit incarnation. Yuanying adepts would not easily let Yuanying out of their bodies. Although the essence of Yuanying was strong and could increase the power of supernatural power, Yuanying itself was very fragile. Any mistake would cause big trouble and great danger. Primordial spirit incarnation was different. It was the foundation of a primordial soul adept's strength. Only when a primordial soul adept revealed his primordial spirit incarnation could he bring out his true abilities and unleash his greatest combat power. The primordial spirit incarnation was also the accumulation of all the understanding of the primordial soul adept's cultivation. It revealed the primordial soul adept's own source scripture, and understanding of the Great Way. In the battle with the 9 glory sky-shattering formation, Lin Feng had witnessed many primordial soul adepts reveal their primordial spirit incarnation. Azura Dao Venerable Wuxia. The source scripture, the method to prove his Dao was the Azura tactics, and to form the primordial spirit incarnation. It was an Azura battle saber that slaughtered the common people. Its heavy murderous aura was awe-inspiring. Flowing Light Sword Venerable. The source scripture, the method to prove his Dao was the Flowing Light Sword principle of the Flowing Light Sword sect. The primordial spirit incarnation was almost without a physical body. From the outside, it looked like a ray of light, flickering in the space, bright and dark, its whereabouts uncertain. Brilliant Sun Sword Venerable. The source scripture, the method to prove his Dao was the Brilliant Sun Sword principle, one of the 2 major sword principles of the Sun-Moon Sword sect. The primordial spirit incarnation was the convergence of countless sword lights, like the scorching sun overhead. The huge black ice soul in front of him was obviously the primordial spirit incarnation that Lord Xianming, Yuxintao cultivated after he cultivated the Xianming tactics and reached the primordial soul realm. With the black ice soul as the core, it constantly radiated powerful magic power, wanting to completely transform the world formed by Lin Feng's yin and yang life and death formation into his own cold ice world. The situation was critical, but Lin Feng was not nervous. Looking at the black ice soul, he was fascinated. When I reach the primordial soul realm, I wonder what the primordial spirit incarnation will look like. While thinking, Lin Feng did not slack off. His hands continuously changed the complicated and abstruse incantation, and finally he put his palms together. 6 paths of life and death transformation rise. In the sky, a huge pattern appeared. Black and white blended, the 2 polar opposites. This black and white pattern began to rotate slowly. As the pattern rotated, the appearance of this side of the world suddenly changed. Vigorous chi of life continuously emerged, as if winter had passed and spring had come. Even if Yuxintao displayed the primordial spirit incarnation and turned into the black ice soul, the cold air all over the sky could not stop the arrival of spring. Countless new lives broke out of the ground. They were full of vitality and green, and the strong breath of life could not be stopped. The black ice soul was still playing its role. Endless ice and snow continued to expand, strangling the new lives, but it could not match the speed of the creation of the chi of life in the yin and yang life and death formation. Although he had turned into the black ice soul, Yuxintao's perception of the outside world was not affected at all. He saw at a glance that in the white half of the black and white pattern in the sky, there was a 3-inch square, 1-inch thick grayish-white spiritual stone floating. From the grayish-white spiritual stone, there was a majestic power that seemed to be nurturing the universe and opening up creation. It was continuously supplied to the yin and yang life and death formation. And in the black half, there was a huge black rock, from which thin thread-like black gas was emitting. The chi of life in the formation became denser and denser. Suddenly, the 2 polar opposites reversed, and the vast amount of chi of life was turned into a monstrous chi of death, dyeing this side of the world black. The endless chi of death and killing turned into thousands of black giant swords. Just the tip of each sword was the size of a small mountain. As soon as they were formed, these black giant swords began to bombard the ice soul that Yuxintao had turned into like a storm. Chapter 386. Thousands of giant black swords filled with the aura of death and destruction flew towards the ice soul that Yuxintao had transformed into. The surrounding ice and snow were torn apart in an instant, and thousands of swords bombarded the ice spirit at the same time. The black ice spirit that Yuxintao's primordial spirit had transformed into shook violently, but after withstanding countless attacks, it was still crystal clear and intact. Boundless cold air spread out again, directly freezing the huge swords formed by the death chi and killing chi, turning them into black ice crystals. In the next moment, they shattered with a loud bang, turning into dust all over the ground. Looking at this scene, Lin Feng said in a low voice, "If not for my main body, the power of the yin and yang life and death formation would not have reached its current peak. Obviously, Yu Xintao also realized this. The black ice spirit's cold air became even more condensed, wreaking havoc in the formation. Seeing this, Lin Feng smiled. It's a little difficult to kill you, but it's enough to trap you. He put his palms together, and the yin and yang life and death formation changed again. The transformation of heaven and earth and the transformation of life and death, these two great changes appeared at this moment, alternating and merging, bringing the yin and yang life and death formation's power to a new height. Yu Xintao immediately felt the pressure. Is this the true power of the formation? After merging with the transformation of life and death, the original transformation of heaven and earth's power also rose to a higher level. Right now, the yin and yang life and death formation that Lin Feng had mastered was still in an incomplete state. At least when the 6 paths of life and death, the 6 changes, and the 12 supreme treasures were gathered, and the 6 changes interconnected with each other, the formation could be considered complete. When the complete yin and yang life and death formation appeared, each of the changes in the 6 paths of life and death would be able to exert its true power. Before this, even the transformation of heaven and earth with the cyclic purple qi, central earth divine light, and the transformation of life and death with the fate sealing stone and the death qi stone could only be said to be outstanding. Even so, when the 2 changes were activated together, it was much more powerful than the previous transformation of heaven and death formation. Facing the yin and yang life and death formation that suddenly attacked fiercely, the black ice spirit formed by Yu Xintao's primordial spirit shook violently in the space. Suddenly, an ancient book appeared in the center of the crystal clear ice spirit. As soon as the book appeared, the entire world seemed to have returned to the Ice Age after the changes of the primordial era. There was only coldness between heaven and earth. Most creatures had been wiped out. There wasn't the slightest bit of warmth. It was like an endless night, despair so great one couldn't see the end. Xianming treasure document. Lin Feng's eyes immediately lit up. Recognizing that this is the Yu family's heirloom treasure, the Xianming treasure tome. It is a primordial spirit magic treasure that only the successive Yu family heads can refine and control. This Xianming treasure tome was the source of the Yu clan's Xianming art and Xianming true water. As soon as the treasure appeared, it immediately helped Yu Xintao stabilize the various changes in the yin and yang life and death formation. In the hands of a primordial divinity practitioner, the magic treasure could also exert its power to the fullest. Endless cold air spread out, trying to drag the world in the yin and yang life and death formation into an ice age. Lin Feng clasped his palms together and changed his incantation. He also activated the power of the yin and yang life and death formation to the extreme. The changes of heaven and earth and the changes of life and death gave rise to endless changes, turning the world upside down and reversing life and death. The 2 sides fell into a stalemate, back and forth. One moment, it was a world of ice, and the next moment, it was a world of myriad changes. But overall, Yu Xintao and the Xianming treasured policy had the upper hand. As time passed, the yin and yang life and death formation would be completely frozen. It was just that it would take a relatively long time. However, this wasn't something to be happy about for Xintao at all, because the opponent before him was merely a clone of Lin Feng. The power of a powerful formation was fully manifested at this moment. Moreover, a formation like the yin and yang life and death formation, whose power was equal to that of a mountain gate formation and could be carried around by others, was even more frightening. Lin Feng pondered in his heart. If my main body was here, I would be able to fight with him for a long time. If I really wanted to determine a victor, I would probably have to fight until the end of time. Is this the strength of the first tier of the Essence Soul Incarnation realm? It's just that there's always someone better out there. It's still hard to judge what level he is in the Incarnation realm. As expected, I have to fight him for real before I can make an accurate assessment. Lin Feng thought of the Great Qin Dynasty's Prince Anliang, Shi Zongyue, who was by the North Wind Sea. He felt it was a pity. I'm just watching from the side. I can't clearly judge the true strength of the second tier of the Essence Soul Incarnation realm, but I think it should be much stronger than the first tier of the Essence Soul Incarnation realm. Although he was gradually losing ground, Lin Feng was not anxious. He patiently fought with Yu Xintao, making Yu Xintao feel more and more uneasy. After achieving the essence soul, one's spiritual will was extremely strong. They could communicate with the heavens and the earth, and their senses were extremely sensitive. At this moment, Yu Xintao felt an ominous premonition gradually rising from the bottom of his heart. Although he knew that as long as he fought patiently he would eventually be able to defeat Lin Feng, Yu Xintao immediately made a decision and said, "Fellow Tianfeng, the situation isn't right. We need to end this quickly." "I have the same intention." An illusory but sharp voice suddenly came from outside the yin and yang life and death formation. The sky was torn open without warning, and from the broken void, a middle-aged man in cyan clothes walked out. Although it was the first time they met, Lin Feng immediately recognized this person's identity. Dao Master Tianfeng, the sect master of the Wind God sect who was rumored to be in seclusion in the Divine Wind Mountain. This person had been hiding in the Nine Heavens Gale formation, and did not take action. On the one hand he respected Dao Master Xianming and Yu Xintao, and on the other hand, he was presiding over the Nine Heavens Gale formation to prevent Lin Feng from suddenly smashing down with Yujing Mountain. This time, the Yu clan and the Wind God sect were serious. The two big shots of the two families and the two powerful figures of the Essence Soul joined hands to ensure that nothing would go wrong. Lin Feng's Yujing Mountain, and his performance in resisting the two attacks of the Nine Heavens Gale formation by himself by the North Wind Sea deserved the attention of the two big shots, Dao Master Tianfeng and Dao Master Xianming. Just now, Dao Master Tianfeng also felt a sense of fear, as if something bad was going to happen. His feeling was even stronger than Yu Xintao's. Yu Xintao was willing to give up his face at the critical moment, which was exactly what Dao Master Tianfeng wanted. Since Lin Feng's body and Yujing Mountain had disappeared, they should first work together to kill the enemy in front of them. Tiny Tot, Zhu Yi Wang Lin, and others were originally the targets of their action. Seeing Dao Master Tianfeng appear, Lin Feng smiled and said, "Dao Master Tianfeng, I've been looking forward to meeting you for a long time, but today is the first time." Dao Master Tianfeng raised his hand, and outside the yin and yang life and death formation, the originally calm world suddenly twisted violently. Invisible and formless gang wind appeared one after another, twisting the void into pieces. The fierce and invincible Nine Heavens gang wind was like the most docile sheep in Dao Master Tianfeng's hands. But once it was released, it would instantly become a fierce beast that could tear the world apart. The whole sky was trembling, and the undulating peaks of the Kunlun mountain range on the ground were flattened by the gang wind. The earth was crisscrossed and each deep gully directly changed the local landscape, turning the mountains into canyons. The Nine Heavens gang wind formation, which was originally invisible and used to defend against Yujing Mountain, changed its target at this moment, and aimed its fangs at Lin Feng and the yin and yang life and death formation inside. Silently, Dao Master Tianfeng said, "How can I allow others to sleep soundly next to my bed? What's more, you killed my people, so I naturally have to kill you, Xianmen Tianzong." Lin Feng smiled and said, "How can I allow others to sleep soundly next to my bed? This sentence is the same for you and me." "Yes." Dao Master Tianfeng nodded and said frankly, "So I'm going to make the first move today." He waved his hand and was about to activate the Nine Heavens gang wind formation to attack, but when the formation was about to be activated, Dao Master Tianfeng suddenly froze. Then, a trace of surprise appeared on the calm face of this powerful figure at the primordial soul stage. Noticing this, Yu Xintao's heart suddenly sank. He knew that there must have been a major change, otherwise Dao Master Tianfeng would not have such a big reaction. Dao Master Tianfeng waved his hand, and a circle of light appeared in the space. The image in the circle changed, and a scene appeared that made him shocked and angry. The Divine Wind Mountain, surrounded by the gang wind, was being attacked by the boundless golden sea of fire. Above the sea of fire hung a dazzling sun, with demon chi soaring into the sky. Lin Feng looked at this scene and pondered in his heart. There are actually two Nine Heavens astral wind formations, and from the looks of it, the power of both sides are about the same. This is interesting. How did the Wind God sect do it? This kind of large-scale array formation required countless efforts and precious materials, just to create the array diagram. Most array diagrams were unique, and the treasures needed to set up the array formation were even more expensive. Not to say that it was absolutely impossible to replicate, but the difficulty was as high as ascending to the heavens. If there are extra materials, why not just strengthen a single formation? Lin Feng thought, maybe this is the real secret weapon of the Wind God sect. Is this the reason why the Golden Crow Great Saint has been thinking about the Wind God sect? Why did the old Golden Crow come at this time? Dao Master Tianfeng suddenly thought of something and glared at Lin Feng. It's you. Lin Feng smiled and said, what? Dao Master Tianfeng stared at Lin Feng, his murderous intent surging, and the gang wind was raging everywhere. Lin Feng said calmly, without you in the Divine Wind Mountain, even if there is a second Nine Heavens gang wind formation, it can defend against ordinary opponents, but it can't defend against the attack of the Golden Crow Great Saint. The Nine Heavens gang wind formation was a good formation, but it was not as good as top formations like the Yin Yang formation, the Nine Glory Sky Shattering formation, and the Virokana formation. But in an instant, Dao Master Tianfeng took a deep breath and calmed down. He stared at Lin Feng and said coldly, the Divine Wind Mountain is the foundation of the Wind God sect for nearly 10,000 years. Even if I'm not here, it won't be broken by the old Golden Crow in a short time. Let's see whose formation will be broken first. Lin Feng smiled and said, Dao Master Tianfeng, it's up to you whether you want to leave or stay. However, why don't you two guess where my Yujing Mountain is? Hearing this, Dao Master Tianfeng and Yu Xintao's expressions changed at the same time. Chapter 387. Where was Yujing Mountain? Except for Lin Feng, no one knew. But it was not difficult to guess. One only needed to think about what would benefit Lin Feng the most. If Lin Feng used Yujing Mountain to join forces with the Golden Crow Great Saint to destroy the Divine Wind Mountain, then the Wind God sect's 10,000 years of foundation would inevitably be destroyed. If Lord Tianfeng stayed here, he could join forces with Yu Xintao to kill Tiny Tot and the others, which could also be considered as destroying the foundation of Lin Feng's Xian sect. But the problem was, would Lin Feng really make such a 50-50 bet? If Yujing Mountain is hidden nearby, then Lin Feng is in an invincible position. If Dao Master Tianfeng didn't leave and Yujing Mountain came down, he and Yu Xintao wouldn't be able to harm the people of the celestial sect of Xianmen. As for Divine Wind Mountain, under the continuous attack of Golden Crow Great Saint, without Dao Master Tianfeng, they wouldn't be able to hold on for long. The Wind God sect was in danger. If Dao Master Tianfeng went back to help Divine Wind Mountain, then Lin Feng did not even need Yujing Mountain. As long as his body came here, it would be enough to make Yu Xintao suffer. If Yujing Mountain came down, Yu Xintao would be in danger. Dao Master Tianfeng and Yu Xintao both understood this, so their faces changed. Taoism Piryu, please forgive me. I have to go back. Dao Master Tianfeng sighed, and took one last look at the yin and yang life and death formation. Then he instantly disappeared through the void, and returned to Divine Wind Mountain. Since he had to leave, Dao Master Tianfeng did not hesitate to take the Nine Heavens Gang Wind formation with him. Without him to control the formation, even if Yujing Mountain came, it would not be able to resist for long. Yu Xintao was depressed at this moment. Dao Master Tianfeng had returned to the Divine Wind Mountain just like that, which was equivalent to selling him out here. The alliance with the Wind God sect had been disintegrated, and Yu Xintao also wanted to retreat. However, Yu Ilwan and other ancestors at the Yuanying stage of the Yu family were still trapped in the yin and yang life and death formation. If Yu Xintao left, they would all die here. Dao Master Tianfeng had the same problem. One could imagine that even though he had returned to Divine Wind Mountain, his heart was bleeding with pain. Lin Feng looked at Yu Xintao and faintly smiled. Why don't you make another guess? Will your side break through this lord's spell formation first? Or will this lord's disciple kill a few more of the Yu clan's Yuanying cultivators? An illusion of light and shadow suddenly appeared in front of Yu Xintao. The image changed and finally stabilized. After looking at it, Yu Xintao felt even more depressed. Yu Shirling, the mid-stage Yuanying patriarch of the Yu clan, was currently fighting with the tiny Shi Tianhao. However, the one who had the upper hand was actually Shi Tianhao. Every dog has its day. Because of the influence of the Dharma idol of Yu Ilwan, the late-stage Yuanying patriarch of the Yu clan, Shi Tianhao was suppressed by Yu Shirling. Now, in the yin and yang life and death formation, Yu Shirling was suppressed, so he was chased and beaten by Shi Tianhao. The tiny Shi Tianhao's current strength, with the help of the two Yuanying celestial devices, was not at a disadvantage when fighting Yu Shirling head-on. At this moment, with the help of the geographical advantage, he immediately gained the upper hand. But Yu Shirling was extremely depressed. Although the power of the yin and yang life and death formation was mainly used to deal with Yu Xintao, a small part of it was enough to affect the balance of the battle between him and Shi Tianhao. The tiny Shi Tianhao looked at Yu Shirling silently. You don't have to feel indignant. I, a mid-stage golden elixir, am fighting you at the mid-stage Yuanying, which is the greatest fairness for you. As he said this, Shi Tianhao stretched out his hand, and a light golden bell hammer appeared in his right hand. He grabbed the bell hammer and knocked on the bronze void cauldron. Golden ripples, like water ripples, vibrated in the space, directly shattering all the Xianming genuine water in front of Yu Shirling. Yu Shirling's face suddenly changed. Unexpectedly, Shi Tianhao felt that it was not enough. He opened his left hand, and a piece of golden silk appeared. Before his opponent could react, the tiny Shi Tianhao directly put the golden silk on his body, and his whole body suddenly became dazzling with golden light. He looked up to the sky and gave a long roar, emitting a fierce aura. Usually, many people said that Shi Tianhao was like a cub of a primordial great demon beast, which described his unimaginable strength at a young age. But now, with the golden silk on Shi Tianhao's back, he was no longer like a cub of a primordial great demon beast, but a living primordial great demon beast that had descended to the human world, with monstrous ferocity. At least from Yu Shirling's point of view, the person standing in front of him right now was an out-and-out ferocious great demon beast. At the Wilderness Sea Assembly, Shi Tianhao shocked the world, but in reality, because he did not use any Dharma tools or treasures, and only used his own Dharma power and magic power to fight against the enemy, both he and Zhu Yi did not display their strongest state. This piece of golden silk was something that Shi Tianhao, Yu Hongyan, Zhuge Fengling, and the others had unintentionally obtained when they went to collect the infinite demonic qi. It looked like silk, but after Lin Feng's appraisal, it was actually the beast skin of a great demon saint that had already achieved the immortal demon soul realm. It contained great power and profound principles, and the little Shi Tianhao had only comprehended some of its mysteries after advancing to the middle stage of the golden elixir. At this moment, with the beast skin on, the Dharma power and magic power in his body increased sharply, and his combat power increased greatly. Shi Tianhao's entire body turned golden, and countless mysterious runes flowed and changed continuously on the surface of his body. He held the ecliptic bell hammer in his hand, and the bronze void cauldron floated by his side. Above his head, an ancient round mirror made entirely of ice floated in midair, and the mirror's light was aimed at Yu Shirling. Today, I'm going to kill a Yuanying cultivator, the little Shi Tianhao said slowly. His tone was calm and indifferent, without the slightest fluctuation. It was not a late-stage golden elixir killing an early-stage Yuanying cultivator, but a mid-stage golden elixir killing a mid-stage Yuanying cultivator. Yu Shirling took a deep breath and said coldly, "Although it's not worth it, I can only exchange this old life of mine for your death today." Then a massive amount of Xianming genuine water appeared, and turned into several extremely condensed black water droplets, surrounding his body. The two did not say anything else. The battle that was 100 times fiercer than before began again. Yu Xintao looked at this scene without saying anything, but the black ice formed by his original spirit and the magic treasure Xianming treasured strategy were strengthened again, sweeping through the world inside the yin and yang life and death formation. The Yu family began to fight desperately, and so did Dao Master Tianfeng. The pain he felt at this moment was more than enough to make his heart bleed. It was more like being stabbed twice in the heart. Two ancestors at the late stage of nascent soul realm, and two at the middle stage of nascent soul realm were all trapped in Lin Feng's formation. If all these people died, Even if Tao Master Tianfeng could save the Divine Wind Mountain, the Wind God sect would immediately be in a precarious situation. Almost half of the high-end core combat power had been lost, which could not be described as a serious injury. But Tao Master Tianfeng had no choice. If the Golden Crow Great Saint broke through the Divine Wind Mountain's 9 heavens astral wind formation, he would not be polite. The Wind God sect would be slaughtered, and its 10,000 years of foundation would be destroyed. As long as we can hold it for a while. Tao Master Tianfeng thought to himself, Xianmen Tianzong. After this, the Wind God sect will definitely take revenge. As long as Tao Master Tianfeng could hold the Divine Wind Mountain for a while, the other original spirit masters in the Divine Land would certainly not sit back and watch the Demon Clan Great Saint break into the human clan world and wreak havoc. This had nothing to do with interests, but the bottom line between the two clans. Master of the Xian sect, you colluded with the Demon Clan. Let's see how you explain it. I will definitely make you lose your reputation. While thinking, Tao Master Tianfeng crossed hundreds of thousands of miles of the void, and finally returned to the Divine Wind Mountain. At this moment, the Divine Wind Mountain was surrounded by the vast sea of sun true fire. Waves of heat turned the land within thousands of miles into a piece of scorched land. Only the Divine Wind Mountain, protected by layers of 9 heavens formless gang wind, stood there alone, withstanding the attacks of the raging fire. Above his head, 2 suns hung in the sky at the same time, burning everything below. The Golden Crow Great Saint completely released his divine sense, and his whole body seemed to have turned into the sun. He was no different from a real sun. Tianfeng, hand over the thing, or your Wind God sect will be destroyed today. Seeing that Tao Master Tianfeng had returned, the Golden Crow Great Saint did not care at all. His deafening laughter reverberated between heaven and earth. Tao Master Tianfeng snorted coldly. You should think about whether you can return to infinite wilderness first. His figure flashed, and he had already returned to the Divine Wind Mountain. With the original spirit cultivator in charge, the power of the 9 heavens gang wind formation suddenly changed dramatically. The violent gang wind was like thousands of sharp blades, actively attacking the golden sea of fire. The gang wind collided with the innumerable rays of sun true fire and exploded. The flames were extinguished by the gang wind, and the gang wind was constantly blown to pieces by the true fire. Tao Master Tianfeng stood in the hall at the top of the Divine Wind Mountain, expressionlessly looking at the 2 suns hanging high in the sky. He put his hands together. Bang! The space above the Divine Wind Mountain suddenly split open, and countless astral winds whistled and roared without end. Tao Master Tianfeng used the 9 heavens gale formation to directly communicate with the astral wind layer above the 9th heaven. There were countless original 9 heavens formless astral wind, which was as dangerous as the void storm and the void turbulence that made all cultivators pale. Even if a powerful figure in the primordial soul realm went deep into it, it would be difficult to guarantee his safety. The terrible thing about a formation was that it could use the vast power of nature between heaven and earth to occupy a geographical advantage. Just like the yin and yang life and death formation, and the 9 luminaries sky-shattering formation, the 9 heavens gale formation was one of the few powerful magic formations that could move its position. The reason for this was that it did not rely on the Divine Wind Mountain, but the astral wind layer in the sky. Under the guidance of the 9 heavens astral gale formation, the violent primeval gale poured down, almost instantly destroying the golden sea of fire that surrounded the Divine Wind Mountain. It rushed toward the blazing sun that the Golden Crow Great Sage had transformed into, and the 2 sides were engaged in a fierce battle. This was the real power and horror of the 9 heavens gang wind formation. Even though Golden Crow Great Sage's strength was much higher than Tao Master Tianfeng's, Tao Master Tianfeng could fight against him with the 9 heavens gang wind formation. Tao Master Tianfeng breathed a sigh of relief at this moment. Well, as long as we can hold on for a while, the demon will definitely retreat, unless it wants to be besieged and killed. But at this moment, Tao Master Tianfeng suddenly felt something, and turned to look at the void in another direction. There, the space suddenly fluctuated violently like boiling water. A tide of purple mist suddenly emerged in the sky, and kept spreading in all directions. In the blink of an eye, The whole sky was dyed purple. Dao Master Tianfeng's eyes suddenly widened. How is this possible? Chapter 388. A tide of purple mist emerged in the sky and turned into a purple sea of clouds. Dao Master Tianfeng looked at the vast purple sea of clouds in shock. In the center of the sea of clouds, there was a white jade-like mountain looming. The extremely terrifying power fluctuations were as vast as the sky and as vigorous as the 4 seas and 8 wastelands. 6 rainbow-colored cloud bridges extended from the white jade immortal mountain, connecting 6 immortal mountain caves with different sceneries. Some were filled with raging flames, some were desolate, and some were windy and snowy. The 6 cave residences, together with the endless astral wind and rolling thunderclouds, surrounded this fairy mountain that seemed to be the ruler of the 9 heavens. At the top of the fairy mountain was a huge colorful tree that covered the sky. Its branches seemed to reach into the heavens and connected the entire void. At the top of the tree stood a young man in purple. He looked calm and smiled at Dao Master Tianfeng. It was Lin Feng's real body. Lin Feng looked relaxed and indifferent, as if he had come to the Divine Wind Mountain for an outing to enjoy the scenery. But in the eyes of Dao Master Tianfeng, this powerful figure of the primordial soul realm was frightened. Are you betting? Dao Master Tianfeng asked bitterly. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. Yu Jingshan and I were indeed in the middle of the Kunlun Mountain. Silently, we watched you and Xianming Dao Master from the void. In fact, I followed you to the Divine Wind Mountain. Dao Master Tianfeng looked at Lin Feng in disbelief. After a while he snorted. The master of the Xian sect really thinks highly of the Wind God sect. Lin Feng's meaning was clear. He and Yu Jingshan would go wherever Dao Master Tianfeng went. If Dao Master Tianfeng had stayed and chosen to cooperate with Xianming Dao Master and Yu Xintao, Lin Feng and Yu Jingshan would have been smashed down on the spot. Dao Master Tianfeng chose to go back to the Divine Wind Mountain. The Iron Tree Avatar and the disciples were out of danger. Lin Feng's real body took Yu Jingshan all the way to the Divine Wind Mountain. At the end of the day, our sects are too close to each other, and conflict arises because of the development of our sections. However, there is no mortal enmity between us. Dao Master Tianfeng looked at Lin Feng with a strange look. But because of your disciple, Shi Tianhao Yu Xianmen Tianzong, will have to fight with the Yu family and the dual-pupiled man. Shouldn't Yu Xintao be your primary target? You brought Yujing Mountain to deal with me. Yu Xintao can't do anything to you, but you can't keep him here even if your formation is powerful. Lin Feng smiled and said frankly, this time, I didn't intend to make Xianming Dao Master stay. You. A look of realization flashed across Dao Master Tianfeng's face. You want to keep him for the Qin dynasty. Lin Feng smiled, neither admitting nor denying it. Although he couldn't see through Wu Qingruo's specific plans, all the signs showed that whether Wu Qingru stood on the side of the Qin dynasty or the aristocratic families, the conflict between the Qin dynasty and the aristocratic families was about to erupt. Killing Yu Xintao in this situation was tantamount to helping the Qin dynasty. As a strong neighbor of Xianmen Tianzong, Lin Feng definitely hoped that the Qin dynasty would be as chaotic as possible, so that his own Xianmen Tianzong would have enough room to develop. Although the Qin dynasty had invited Xianmen Tianzong to the Desolate Sea Assembly, as Xianmen Tianzong became stronger, the Qin dynasty would definitely become more vigilant and change their policies to restrict Xianmen Tianzong. In addition, there was another reason that only Lin Feng could understand, but couldn't tell others. That was the Yu clan. Lin Feng left the experience points package for his disciple, the little Shi Tianhao. This kind of loyal helper of the Destined One's enemy was simply the most suitable stepping stone on the path of the Destined One's rise. As Shi Tianhao sang all the way, the Yu clan would inevitably be swept into the garbage heap. There was no need for Lin Feng to worry at all. When the time came, he could just watch the show with peace of mind. The little one would fight his way up level by level according to the difficulty level. Eventually, he would reach the territory of the final boss and defeat it. What Lin Feng needed to do was to prevent the final boss from suddenly running out of the territory to find the little Shi Tianhao, who had not yet leveled up, just like this time. And there were too many benefits to killing Dao Master Tianfeng. Tao Master Tianfeng changed the incantation gesture with his hands. The endless astral wind that was originally fighting with the Golden Crow Sage quickly returned and turned into layers of astral wind barriers to protect the Divine Wind Mountain. Facing the pressure from both Lin Feng and the Golden Crow Sage, Tao Master Tianfeng could only defend with all his strength. All his hopes now rested on the human clan cultivators who would come to help after hearing that the Golden Crow Sage had entered the Divine Land. Master of the Xian sect, you have already made a mistake by allowing the demon clan like Tao Tai to stay on the mountain. Now you have colluded with the Golden Crow Sage. You are committing suicide in the cultivation world of the human clan. Tao Master Tianfeng stared coldly at Lin Feng and said, "Let's see how you explain yourself in front of so many people." Lin Feng looked at Tao Master Tianfeng and smiled. He thought to himself, "Friend, I can only continue with my plan after I kill you here. Otherwise, I will really be accused of colluding with the demon clan." Standing at the top of the mysterious sky treasure tree, he pinched the incantation gesture and said lightly, "You don't need to worry about how I will explain myself." Lin Feng's spiritual will had reached a perfect balance with the white jade Jing mountain, the mysterious sky treasure tree, and the purple sea of clouds. The four wills had merged together. The purple mist surged and surrounded the white jade Jing mountain. Then, outside the vast purple sea of clouds, a colorful and shining halo appeared. It formed a perfect sphere and contained the white jade Jing mountain, the mysterious sky treasure tree, and the purple sea of clouds. Seeing this, Tao Master Tianfeng's expression completely changed. He looked at the huge ball of light in front of him, and could clearly feel a mysterious and majestic realm from it. It was as if he was facing a complete world of creation. Thousands of wills were united and merged together. Boom boom, boom boom. The space around the halo constantly exploded, as if the boundary between one world and another was squeezed together and constantly rubbed against each other. Not to mention Tao Master Tianfeng. Even the Golden Crow Saint, who was like a second sun in the sky, was shocked at this moment. Not only in the human clan's divine land, but also in the demon realm's infinite wasteland. Most of the great saints and demon kings of the demon clan knew that Lin Feng was in control of the White Jade Jing Mountain. Everyone knew that the White Jade Jing Mountain, as the gate of Xianmen Tianzong, could move in the void. Therefore, Lin Feng was not afraid of going deep into the enemy's territory, because he could control the White Jade Jing Mountain at any time and wipe out the enemy's geographical advantage. But no one knew what kind of power the White Jade Jing Mountain had. That day outside the Sanzhou city, the White Jade Jing Mountain suddenly appeared and killed two early Yuanian cultivators. It was like killing two mosquitoes, and it did not show its true strength at all. Until now, the White Jade Jing Mountain had only revealed the tip of the iceberg. I must be careful. If I am not careful, I may be killed by the master of the Xianmen sect and the Wind God sect. This was the first thought that came to the Golden Crow Great Saint's mind. However, what made the Golden Crow Great Saint feel a little relieved was that the White Jade Jing Mountain was displaying a strong power at the moment, but this power had obviously rubbed against the vast thousand world itself, and was restricted by the power of the boundary. Although the power was still very strong, it was stiff because of this. It was perfect for attacking a motionless target like the Divine Wind Mountain, but if it was used to attack experts like him and Tao Master Tianfeng, it would appear to be not flexible enough. Even if it could not win, it could still run away. Although he comforted himself in this way, when the Golden Crow Great Saint saw the White Jade Jing Mountain rushing toward the Divine Wind Mountain, he was still shocked. Boom! The White Jade Jing Mountain, under the cover of the light ball, crashed straight into the Divine Wind Mountain. Between the two, the space on the way of the White Jade Jing Mountain suddenly shattered like a broken mirror. The boundary of the space was directly crushed by the White Jade Jing Mountain. Tao Master Tianfeng was so angry that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. His hands continuously changed the incantation gestures, constantly triggering the primitive and violent Nine Heavens formless astral wind in the astral wind layer above the sky to strengthen the wind wall defense outside the Divine Wind Mountain, pushing the power of the Nine Heavens astral wind formation to the extreme. With a roar, he took off his human body and turned into an invisible, but extremely powerful astral wind. which also integrated into the nine heavens astral wind formation. At the same time, a big cattail leaf fan appeared at the top of the divine wind mountain. It suddenly flashed toward the outside of the mountain, and in an instant, a fierce wind blew. This time, Tao Master Tianfeng went all out. He manifested his Yuan spirit incarnation, and took out his magic treasure, the Tianfeng treasure fan. All his power burst out at this moment, because he knew that if he did not go all out now, he would never have the chance. At this time, the wind walls surrounding Divine Wind Mountain had endless astral winds stacked upon each other, nearly condensing into a solid substance. They had already lost the formless and formless characteristics of the astral winds. Instead, they were filled with vibrant colors, brilliant and dazzling. This defense had been raised to the extreme, and it was a defense that the Golden Crow Great Saint could not break. Because of this, although he had always coveted the Divine Wind Mountain, he had never been able to get what he wanted. But in front of Yujing Mountain, it was useless. It was like an emperor descending to the world, or the master of the nine heavens, or a divine emperor descending to the world. The space within 1,000 miles was trembling, and countless spiritual chi of heaven and earth were directly squeezed and exploded. The light ball that wrapped around Yujing Mountain hit the nine heavens astral wind formation heavily. The mountain gate hit the mountain gate. With a loud bang, the whole world seemed to turn into chaos. The Kunlun Mountains around the Divine Wind Mountain all collapsed, and were directly razed to the ground. For a moment, only the Divine Wind Mountain was left standing in the vast world. It was full of the feeling that it was at the end of the road, and was about to collapse. The wind wall that seemed to have solidified and was overflowing with colorful light suddenly flickered with ripples of light. It twisted and seemed as if it was about to shatter. But what made Tao Master Tianfeng desperate was that Yujing Mountain's attack had just begun. The light ball hit the wind wall, and the power that seemed to collapse the sky pressed down on the Divine Wind Mountain, like Mount Tai crushing an egg. The Divine Wind Mountain was feeling like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Under this terrifying power, the surrounding earth collapsed and collapsed. The solid ground was turned into powder, and dust flew into the sky. It was as if a sandstorm was set off within 1,000 miles of the Divine Wind Mountain. Finally, the light ball that wrapped around Yujing Mountain retreated and rose into the air again. But before the Divine Wind Mountain could breathe a sigh of relief, the light ball fiercely hit it again. At this moment, Yujing Mountain had completely gone mad, as if it was the end of the world. All of its power gathered together for one thing. Crash, crash, crash. Chapter 389. The Golden Crow Great Sage stood at the side, shuddering as he watched Mount Yujing's momentum, which seemed to be about to smash a hole in the divine land. Let him compete with the Divine Wind Mountain. I'm not in a hurry to act. I'll wait until the Divine Wind Mountain is completely destroyed. The Golden Crow Great Sage thought. Golden Crow Great Sage thought to himself. It would be best if he could fight to the death with Tianfeng, but I'm afraid he won't do that. But as long as he breaks through the Divine Wind Mountain, everything will be fine. After this, I must find a way to deal a blow to Lin Feng when I return to Infinite Wilderness, and suppress his momentum. Otherwise, it will be difficult to deal with him if he cooperates with Mount Yujing, the Golden Crow Great Sage thought. As long as I publicize the contents of my contact with Lin Feng, I can incite the dissatisfaction of the human race against him. In this way, he will definitely be in a difficult situation. While the Golden Crow Great Sage was thinking, Lin Feng began to control Mount Yujing to launch a second attack on the Divine Wind Mountain. Lin Feng silently calculated. Mount Yujing, the mysterious heaven treasure tree, and the cyclic purple chi are all powerful enough, but my cultivation still needs to be improved. I don't even need to cultivate a primordial spirit. As long as I advance to the late Yuanying stage and master the universal Dharma form, I can use Mount Yujing to break through the nine heavens astral winds formation in one go. Mount Yujing's second attack was even more ferocious than the first. It was like a rebellious king finally starting to face the rebels in front of him. This made things difficult for the Divine Wind Mountain below. After Mount Yujing's attack, the wind wall formed by the nine heavens astral winds formation was already distorted, and on the verge of collapse. Now that it had to endure a second attack that was even more powerful than the first, the wind wall immediately shattered and turned into endless scattered astral winds. Under the pressure of Mount Yujing, it was compressed and spread in all directions. A powerful shock wave composed entirely of astral winds spread out in all directions with Mount Yujing as the center. It was like a ring-shaped storm blade that cut through everything in its path. Thousands of miles of mountains around the Divine Wind Mountain had already been destroyed in the aftermath of the first collision. This time, the storm blade sliced through even more distant mountains, causing countless mountains to collapse and landslides. The Nine Heavens astral wind formation was completely broken, and the astral wind formed by Dao Master Tianfeng's primordial spirit, which was integrated into the formation, was spat out and heavily bombarded the palaces and pavilions on the top of the Divine Wind Mountain. He turned back into his human form, looking extremely embarrassed. He grabbed the magic treasure beside him, the heavenly wind treasured fan, looked around, and his eyes were about to spit out flames. In the past, the summit of the Divine Wind Mountain was surrounded and protected by astral winds. It was mysterious and ethereal, making it difficult for outsiders to clearly see the summit. But now, the astral winds had dispersed, and the mountaintop was a mess. At this moment, the Divine Wind Mountain looked as if it had been stripped naked. Dao Master Tianfeng stared at Yujing Mountain in the sky. Lin Feng. At the top of the Jade Capital Mountain, on the top of the treasure tree, Lin Feng stood with his hands behind his back and said calmly, "From the moment you and the Yu family worked together to plot against me, you should have expected this result. From now on, there is only one voice in the Kunlun Mountain range. The voice of Xianmen Tianzong." Dao Master Tianfeng's eyes were about to spit fire, and he almost crushed the heavenly wind treasured fan in his hand. Lin Feng didn't talk nonsense with him, but he didn't control Yujing Mountain to continue attacking. Silently, he just floated in the void. Golden Crow Great Saint secretly sighed in his heart, knowing that Lin Feng wouldn't continue to attack. But the Nine Heavens astral wind formation had been broken, and Dao Master Tianfeng had been injured in the collision just now. This was enough for Golden Crow Great Saint. Even if Dao Master Tianfeng wasn't injured, without the help of the Nine Heavens astral wind formation, he wouldn't be a match for Golden Crow Great Saint, let alone now. In Dao Master Tianfeng's desperate roar, Golden Crow Great Saint drove the raging True Sun Fire to sweep the Divine Wind Mountain. The light of the True Sun Fire continued to explode. Under the high temperature, the entire Divine Wind Mountain was gradually collapsing. Looking at the golden fire that filled the sky, Dao Master Tianfeng almost spat out a mouthful of blood because he knew that the Wind God Sect's 10,000 years of foundation was completely destroyed. Even though Dao Master Tianfeng had reached the primordial soul realm and had an extremely strong will, he still found it hard to accept such a huge blow. At this moment, Dao Master Tianfeng looked at Yujing Mountain in the sky and vaguely felt a trace of regret. Regret. This kind of emotion hadn't appeared in Dao Master Tianfeng's long life for thousands of years, but at this moment, it really appeared. Dao Master Tianfeng sighed inwardly. He waved his heavenly wind treasured fan to split open the sea of True Sun Fire, ready to break out. The destruction of the Wind God Sect and the destruction of the Wind God Sect made Dao Master Tianfeng's heart ache, but if he continued to hesitate, even he would die here. Golden Crow Great Saint naturally couldn't let him escape, so he immediately chased after him. Although the demon had left, the True Sun Fire he had left on Divine Wind Mountain was not extinguished. Lin Feng looked down at the sea of fire from Yujing Mountain and saw a strange beast struggling in the sea of fire. It had a body like a deer, a head like a sparrow, horns and a snake's tail. Its whole body was covered with a cyan brilliance. The most famous spirit beast raised by the Wind God Sect was the Hylian beast. At this moment, the strange beast in front of Lin Feng was the Hylian beast king raised by the Wind God Sect. The other mixed-blood Hylian beasts were all crossbred from it. The Hylian was a very high-quality wind spirit beast. Lin Feng had always wanted to get a Demon King-level Hylian, so that he could cooperate with the Kuei Ox King to maximize the power of the Wind Thunder Transformation Talisman Array. Although this Hylian had formed a demon infant and reached the Demon King level, it still couldn't resist the True Sun Fire of the Golden Crow Great Saint. Even if Golden Crow Great Saint had left, Lin Feng used his Dharma power to grab the Hylian and bring it to Yujing Mountain. He activated Yujing Mountain, broke through the void, and flew unhurriedly in the direction of Golden Crow Great Saint and Dao Master Tianfeng. There's not much time left. The human tribe's primordial soul cultivators should be arriving soon. Lin Feng calculated in his mind. Golden Crow Great Saint and Dao Master Tianfeng, one human and one demon, were chasing and fleeing. Their speed was getting slower and slower, and Lin Feng had already caught up with them. Dao Master Tianfeng had been trapped by Golden Crow Great Saint's true sunfire, and could only resist with the 9-heaven formless gang wind. If Golden Crow Great Saint hadn't paid at least half of his attention to Lin Feng, Dao Master Tianfeng would have been defeated and captured. Golden Crow Great Saint glanced at Lin Feng's Yujing Mountain, then looked coldly at Dao Master Tianfeng and said, "Tianfeng, you should know what I want. Give it to me and I won't make things difficult for you." Dao Master Tianfeng's eyes flashed. He had already understood that Golden Crow Great Saint was also afraid of Lin Feng. As long as he got what he wanted, Golden Crow Great Saint would really retreat. He was happy to leave Dao Master Tianfeng behind and let the human tribe fight among themselves. Dao Master Tianfeng made a prompt decision. He flipped his palm and a round pearl flashed with a warm luster appeared in his hand. Lin Feng looked from Jade Capital Mountain and saw that it was an orb shaped like a pearl, but the size was the size of an adult's fist. The orb was translucent, and one could see that there were clouds of rolling mist inside. Most of the mist was milky white, and only a small part was flashing with a faint golden light. Dao Master Tianfeng didn't say a word and directly threw the pearl to Golden Crow Great Saint. The Golden Crow Sage laughed and looked extremely happy. He put away the pearl and withdrew his true fire of the sun with satisfaction, making a path for Dao Master Tianfeng. Dao Master Tianfeng didn't dare to hesitate and directly manifested his Yuan spirit incarnation. It turned into an invisible wind and was about to break through the void to escape. But Lin Feng wouldn't give him this chance. Yujing Mountain directly smashed down. Dao Master Tianfeng wanted to avoid it, but he didn't have the strength to do so. When Yujing Mountain used its full strength, it almost turned into an independent world, which would cause serious friction with the space of the vast thousand world. Although it didn't affect its power, its flexibility was greatly reduced, making it seem stiff and sluggish. It was just right for attacking the Divine Wind Mountain, which couldn't move, but it would lose its clumsiness when facing experts like the Golden Crow Great Sage and Heavenly Wind Dao Master. Lin Feng himself was also very clear about this problem. To solve it, Lin Feng needed to further increase his own cultivation level, become more closely connected with Mount Yujing, the Mystic Sky Treasure Tree, and the Cyclic Violet Qi, and comprehend more of the mysteries of the Great Tao. However, Dao Master Tianfeng had been injured in the previous collision at the mountain gate, and then beaten up by Golden Crow Great Saint. He was already seriously injured. Even in Yujing Mountain, he was unable to escape. Seeing that he couldn't avoid it, Dao Master Tianfeng had to use his Yuan spirit incarnation to drive the Tianfeng treasure fan. The two of them worked together to resist the suppression of Yujing Mountain. But he was still no match for Yujing Mountain, even with the support of the 9 heavens astral wind formation. How could he resist Yujing Mountain now? Dao Master Tianfeng's attack fell in front of Yujing Mountain, like a few weak breezes. A powerful primordial soul cultivator could only watch himself and the Tianfeng treasure fan being smashed into pieces by Yujing Mountain. His Yuan spirit incarnation was originally an invisible wind, but at this moment, it was directly torn apart by the power of Yujing Mountain. The strong wind exploded into countless streams of air that shot out in all directions. However, every single stream of air was once again crushed by Jing Mountain. They were continuously destroyed, from thick to thin, and then even thinner until they completely ceased to exist. Dao Master Tianfeng, the master of the Wind God sect at the Primordial Soul Realm, was directly killed by Yujing Mountain. The Golden Crow Great Sage's eyelids twitched when he saw this. This man is really cruel. A cultivator at the Primordial Soul Realm died just like that. Then, the Great Saint of the Demon Clan found that after a slight pause, Yujing Mountain was rushing toward him. Golden Crow Great Saint sneered. "Even I want to stay." You're too greedy. Today, I'll let you be arrogant. I'll teach you a lesson in the future. Then, a golden light suddenly appeared above Golden Crow Great Saint's head. It directly pierced through the sky above and opened a space door. It was a secret method of the demon clan that he had set up in his lair in Infinite Wasteland. As long as he willed it, he could be transported back to Infinite Wasteland without going through the passage between the two worlds. Although this method came at a great cost, Golden Crow Great Saint felt that it was all worth it when he thought of the pearl he had finally obtained. Chapter 390. In the face of Lin Feng's ferocious Yujing Mountain, the Golden Crow Sage had to retreat. He had gotten what he wanted and achieved his goal, so he was ready to retreat and return to Infinite Wilderness. In fact, he had been secretly calculating when the reinforcements of the other human experts would arrive. The Golden Crow Great Sage had already made preparations for his escape route. He had set up a receiving method in his old nest in Infinite Wilderness Land. With just a thought, he could open up an independent spatial passageway between his current location and his old nest, allowing him to return to Infinite Wilderness Land. The cost of this receiving method was great, and it was a fixed one-way method. It could only send the Golden Crow Sage from his current location to his lair. It could only be used once, and it would be useless. However, the effect was very good. The Golden Crow Sage could leave the Divine Land at any time, and did not need to go to the inherent space crack passage between the two worlds. With just a thought, a golden light appeared above his head, and the passage door opened. Wrapped in golden light, he flew up into the sky. The Golden Crow Sage was as fast as lightning. He was about to disappear into the space door. Lin Feng drove Mount Yujing, still chasing behind him, ascending all the way. You can't catch up. The Golden Crow Sage sneered. After today, you will be besieged endlessly by your fellow humans. Internal strife is what you are best at. As he spoke, the Golden Crow Sage's expression suddenly changed. He looked up at the space door opened by the golden light above his head, and saw a big hand suddenly stretching out from the other side of the door. This hand did not have a specific color, and it was hazy and chaotic. It only condensed into the shape of a hand, but it was incomparably huge. So huge that it exceeded anyone's imagination. It was so big that people suspected that this hand could directly crush a star in its palm. Tianmei. The Golden Crow Sage roared. He did not dare to hesitate at all. Demonic power surged all over his body, bursting out with unprecedented power. He had never used this kind of power when he fought against the Nine Heavens Astral Gale Formation and captured Tao Master Tianfeng. Because the Golden Crow Sage did not divert his attention to guard against Lin Feng. It was not that he did not want to, but that he could not. The giant hand in front of him was something that he might not be able to match even if he used all his strength. If he was even slightly distracted, he would die immediately. The vast true fire of the sun burst out, and then gathered together, instantly turning into a golden sun. Within the golden light of the sun, a three-legged golden crow flapped its wings and flew. Because this sun was closer to the ground, at this moment, its light was even more dazzling and blazing than the real sun in the sky. However, that terrifying hand didn't seem to care at all. It slammed down on the golden sun, as if it was swatting a fly. The huge hand collided violently with the blazing sun. In an instant, a powerful shockwave comparable to when Mount Yujing had collided with the Nine Heavens Gale Formation erupted, shattering all the surrounding spiritual energy and causing the space to collapse. Golden flames rained down from the sky like a torrential downpour. The large hand trembled and quickly retracted, as if it had been scalded by a flame. Golden light flashed in the center of the palm, and it kept on exploding. The Golden Crow Sage was in a miserable state. He was directly hit by the giant hand, and was sent flying backward. The true fire of the sun all over his body was destroyed, revealing his true form as a three-legged golden crow. His black feathers, shining with golden light, fell off in large numbers and scattered all over the sky. Before the Golden Crow Sage could recover, a pressure like that of Mount Tai appeared in his heart, causing all his feathers to stand on end. He turned his head and saw that Mount Yujing, which had been chasing him all this time, was already right in front of him. Being blocked by that giant hand not only caused the Golden Crow Sage to be seriously injured, but also caused his connection method to be stuck. As a result, Mount Yujing had caught up with him. A sense of despair rose in the Golden Crow Sage's heart. He finally felt what Tao Master Tianfeng had felt before. He had the heart but not the strength. He wanted to dodge, but he was seriously injured and couldn't do anything. In particular, now that he had been directly hit by that terrifying giant hand and was flying backward, it was as if he had taken the initiative to crash into Mount Yujing. Lin Feng naturally accepted such a big gift. He did not hesitate and exerted the power of Mount Yujing to the extreme. Wrapped in a ball of light, it directly crushed everything that dared to stand in its way. The demon and the mountain collided, and a fierce power fluctuation erupted in the air. With a bang, it was as if a piece of porcelain had hit a hard mountain rock. The sky was filled with a rain of blood and feathers. The three-legged golden crow, a great saint of the demon clan and an immortal demon soul, was directly smashed into pieces by Mount Yujing. His flesh and blood flew everywhere. And this was just the beginning. His body was smashed and the Golden Crow Sage's demon soul was also crushed by Mount Yujing and constantly disintegrated. The great saint of the demon clan and the Tao master of the human clan were detached from the mortal world. Naturally, their lifespans were almost infinite, but they could still be killed by powerful external forces. Tao Master Tianfeng was the same, and so was the Golden Crow Sage. The ball of golden light that had struggled under the impact of Mount Yujing finally exploded, and turned into flowing lights that filled the sky. After the attack, the giant hand in the sky did not attack again. Silently, it just blocked the Golden Crow Sage's way. At this time, it waved its hand and took an inconspicuous golden light from the flowing lights that erupted from the Golden Crow Sage's demon soul. Then it retreated. Lin Feng ignored him. That was part of the agreement in the first place. After all, the Golden Crow Sage was a great demon who had achieved the second realm of the immortal demon soul. He was much stronger than Tao Master Tianfeng, so he was not killed by Mount Yujing. But at this moment he was completely desperate. Because when the giant hand retreated from the space door, it also completely destroyed the golden light channel that the Golden Crow Sage had opened with the receiving method. The receiving method was broken, and the space channel was closed again. Only the broken remnants of the Golden Crow Sage's demon soul were left floating between heaven and earth. In front of him was Mount Yujing, which was eyeing him like a tiger watching its prey. Heavenly charm. The Golden Crow Sage roared unwillingly, but then Mount Yujing pressed down on his head from the sky. In the roar, the dust on the ground flew up, bringing up a sandstorm. As Mount Yujing slowly landed on the ground, its powerful Dharma power also suppressed the remnant of the Golden Crow Sage's soul under the mountain. After a long time, as if the dust had settled, everything returned to normal. But as far as the eye could see, the Kunlun Mountains, which were thousands of miles in radius, had been devastated by this battle. Lin Feng stood calmly at the top of the mysterious sky treasure tree. At this moment, a light shadow appeared in front of him, shaking slightly. In the light shadow, a barefoot girl in a white dress appeared. Her face was delicate and beautiful, and her eyes and smile exuded an intoxicating charm. It was the peerless genius of the demon clan who Lin Feng had met once in the past, Long Yi. Lin Feng looked at her and said calmly, "I will now call you Great Sage Long Yi." Long Yi laughed softly. Her voice was low and hoarse as usual, but it revealed a different kind of charm. Sect leader Lin is too polite. In front of you, Long Yi doesn't dare to be arrogant. Although her words were polite, Lin Feng didn't dare to look down on this girl. She was a genius of the same level as Yan Mingyue. Even though both of them were heavily injured in the previous battle, they were still able to recover their strength in such a short amount of time, and even go up a level. This even made Lin Feng secretly suspect that the two of them already had a plan in their hearts during that battle back then. It seemed like they almost died together, but they each gained something from that battle and broke through their previous limits. However, compared to Long Yi, what Lin Feng cared about more was her master, the enchantress. Regarding this demon, Lin Feng's only thought could be condensed into two words. Terrifying. Simply terrifying. The Golden Crow Saint, who had cultivated the second realm of the indestructible demon soul, was completely no match for him. Even if it wasn't an ambush, if the Golden Crow Saint dared to face the enchantress head-on, he would only be defeated. It was believed that the Golden Crow Saint was extremely afraid of the enchantress and didn't dare to meet him easily. This time, he was tempted by treasures to attack the Divine Wind Mountain, but the news was leaked and he was caught red-handed by the enchantress. In the end, he had no choice but to die. Almost universally recognized as the number one of the 10 sages of the demon clan, he indeed deserved his reputation. Lin Feng guessed that this demon should have reached the third realm of the indestructible demon soul. Beating the Golden Crow Saint was like an adult beating a child. In the past, he was probably afraid of the reaction of the other great sages of the demon clan and the overall situation of Tianhuang mainland. Otherwise, he would have killed the Golden Crow Saint long ago. This time, when the Golden Crow Saint came to the Divine Land, he was immediately taken advantage of by her and died. After ending the communication with Lin Feng, Long Yi was in a daze. "Are you regretting looking at that jade capital mountain?" A woman slowly walked to Long Ye's side. Her entire body seemed to be shrouded in a layer of chaotic fog, making it impossible to see her appearance clearly. It was Long Ye's master, the enchantress. A speck of golden light floated above her hand. Silently, it floated in the air like a firefly. Long Yi came back to her senses when she heard this and threw herself at her master with a smile, lightly shaking her master's arm. "Master, you clearly know that I'm about to regret it to death. Don't laugh at me anymore. I also didn't know that Yujing Mountain was actually so mysterious. However, I'm looking forward more and more to what kind of storm this master of the celestial sect can stir up in the Divine Land." Long Ye's eyes flickered. The old Golden Crow's execution this time was not a waste. The enchantress said indifferently, "The old Golden Crow can only blame himself for being too greedy and biting off more than he could chew. He deserves this outcome." Long Yi asked curiously, "Master, what treasure does the old Golden Crow want to seize from the Divine Wind Mountain? I saw that you only took the old Golden Crow's divine vein imprint. You didn't take anything else. That treasure doesn't have much use for us, but it's different if it's given to someone else." A faint smile appeared on the enchantress's blurry face. "I'll leave it to the master of the celestial sect. Let's see what he decides in the future." Lin Feng was currently at the peak of Jade Capital Mountain. Silently, he held a fist-sized pearl in his hand. The Golden Crow Great Sage was suppressed, so the old bird's treasures naturally all fell into Lin Feng's hands. Lin Feng was naturally very interested in the things that the Golden Crow Great Sage constantly wanted to seize from the Divine Wind Mountain. "It feels like the originally mostly milky white fog is slowly turning golden?" Lin Feng looked for a moment before putting away the pearl. Because a new guest was about to arrive. Due to the Golden Crow Great Sage's invasion, a human primordial spirit cultivator had rushed over as reinforcement. Chapter 391. Sitting on Yujing Mountain, Lin Feng sensed a powerful wave of Dharma power coming from afar. But soon, the Dharma power stopped and kept a certain distance from Yujing Mountain. They could feel that the demonic aura of the Golden Crow Great Saint had disappeared. A voice came from the void. "Is this the master of the Celestial Gate?" Lin Feng replied calmly, "Yes, it is me. Are you here for the Golden Crow Great Saint? He has been suppressed by me and can no longer do evil or cause trouble in the Divine Land. Don't worry." The Dharma power stopped for a moment and then calmed down. Lin Feng could feel a few divine senses looking at Yujing Mountain, but they could not break in. He slightly relaxed the suppression on the remnant soul of the Golden Crow Great Saint. Suddenly, a violent will of resistance was revealed. The Essence Soul Masters who came to help nodded. They immediately confirmed that the Golden Crow Great Saint was seriously injured, and was indeed suppressed by Lin Feng's Yujing Mountain. They looked at Yujing Mountain with mixed feelings. They already knew that Yujing Mountain was strong, but it was not until today that they saw it. Although the Golden Crow Great Saint's strength was at the bottom of the 10 most famous demon sages, he was still a great demon that had dominated the infinite wilderness for a long time. He had cultivated the second level of the immortal demon soul, and was an ancient species that could control the true fire of the sun. He was stronger than many demon sages. Who would have thought that he would die in Kunlun Mountain today? One of them suddenly asked. When we arrived, the Divine Wind Mountain had been destroyed. May I ask the master of the Celestial Gate, where is Dao Master Tianfeng now? Although they did not see it with their own eyes, they could roughly guess what had happened based on the remnant Dharma power aura, and the flow of the chi of heaven and earth. Although the Divine Wind Mountain had been destroyed by the true fire of the sun, the Nine Heavens astral wind formation had definitely collided with Yujing Mountain. Even the Nine Heavens astral wind formation was destroyed by the power of Yujing Mountain. And here, they could clearly feel that Dao Master Tianfeng had died. Before he died, he had fought with Lin Feng in Yujing Mountain. Lin Feng said lightly, Tianfeng Dao Master plotted against me, Xianmen Tianzong, and has been killed by me. Lin Feng could also sense the remaining aura, so he openly admitted it. However, he now had a deeper understanding of the enchantress's strength. His sneak attack had beaten the Golden Crow Great Sage half to death without leaving a trace. Hearing that Lin Feng had admitted to killing Dao Master Tianfeng, the Dharma power in the sky stopped, and then someone revealed a dangerous aura. Lin Feng's expression was calm as he continued. The Golden Crow Great Sage has invaded the divine land of the human race. It's not just my fellow Taoists who have invaded the human race's divine land. I am also duty-bound to kill and expel this demon. Therefore, he is now being suppressed under my Yujing Mountain. Wind God sect plotted to attack Xianmen Tianzong. I will settle the score with Dao Master Tianfeng. It's that simple. The other party was silent, but everyone was thinking quickly in their hearts. With a thought from Lin Feng, the purple gas had already brought out the remnant soul of the Golden Crow Great Sage, who was suppressed under Yujing Mountain, and sent it into the Xiantian Timeless Cave at the top of the Xiantian Treasure Tree. The Golden Crow Great Sage had a very bad feeling. What are you going to do? Lin Feng smiled and turned to look at the girl who was still carrying the giant sword case and walking around the tree. Then, carrying the remnant soul of the Golden Crow Great Sage, he walked in front of the girl and tried to communicate with her with his divine thought. Since the last time the giant sword was unsheathed, Lin Feng found that although the girl still looked dull and her eyes were dull, there was no doubt that there was more spirit in her than before. It was very likely that it was because 1/3 of the blade of the giant sword had finally been sharpened. With the help of the good karma formed when he helped the giant sword to remove the last bit of rust, Lin Feng tried to communicate with the girl. She did not stop and continued walking, but Lin Feng was delighted to find that his divine thought had received a slight response. He directly sent the remnant soul of the Golden Crow Great Sage in front of the girl, and then sent a message through his divine thought. The girl suddenly stopped and looked at the Golden Crow Great Sage in front of her in a daze. The Golden Crow Great Sage was shocked and wanted to make a final resistance. Even though he was only left with a remnant soul, his strength was still stronger than that of an ordinary late-stage Yuanian cultivator. However, the bright silver chains on the girl's body were instantly undone, and the giant sword case on her back directly smashed toward the Golden Crow Great Sage. Boom! As the Golden Crow Great Sage roared, he was directly pressed to the ground by the giant sword case, unable to move. The girl turned into a shadow and gradually disappeared, leaving only the giant sword case firmly suppressing the Golden Crow Great Sage. Soon, the Golden Crow Great Sage's eyes revealed a look of pain, and he looked at the sword case pressing down on him with shock and anger. This thing. He could clearly feel that there seemed to be a blunt, rusty knife incessantly cutting his demon soul, rubbing back and forth. The Golden Crow Great Sage was like a whetstone, constantly being rubbed by the giant sword in the sword case, using his demon soul to grind away the rust on the giant sword. As the rust lessened, the power of the giant sword became stronger, while the power of the Golden Crow Great Sage's demon soul became weaker. This process was very slow and would be a long one. Seeing this, Lin Feng nodded and said, "My prediction was right. This is also the most suitable way to deal with this old Golden Crow." Even though the Golden Crow Great Sage was only a remnant of his demon soul, he was still extremely powerful. If Lin Feng wanted to suppress him with his own strength, then there was no need for him to do anything else but to wrangle with this old bird. Using the Yujing Mountain to suppress him would affect the Yujing Mountain's mobility and balance of power, causing it to be unable to freely enter and exit the void. This was even more intolerable to Lin Feng. Now that he was using the giant sword to suppress the Golden Crow Great Sage, nothing would be delayed. He could also further form a good relationship with the sword, and lay a more solid foundation for subduing it in the future. It was killing two birds with one stone. Moreover, with the Golden Crow Great Sage's remnant soul helping to sharpen the sword, the speed of refining the giant sword would be increased to another level. Lin Feng put his palms together, and with a roar, the Yujing Mountain rose from the ground and flew into the sky. The mysterious sky treasure tree on top of the jade capital mountain that reached the sky burst forth with colorful light. The branches and leaves of the tree that covered the sky shook together. The treasure light broke through the space, and the huge white jade immortal mountain also disappeared into the void. In an instant, the majestic immortal mountain, the majestic purple aura, and the treasure tree all disappeared. In the sky, only the blue sky and white clouds were left. A cool breeze flowed, and Lin Feng's voice lingered. In the future, if the demon race invades again, I will also take action. In the blink of an eye, the vast Yujing Mountain paradise seemed to have never existed. The primordial soul mighty figures in the void were all silent. Their thoughts fluctuated continuously, but in the end no one moved. Lin Feng drove the Yujing Mountain through the void turbulence, and received Yan Mingyue's voice transmission. Sect leader Lin, you really spent a lot this time. The Wind God sect and the Yu family took the initiative to provoke me, and I was just giving them a taste of their own medicine. Lin Feng's tone was indifferent, and he said calmly, however, no matter what, I still have to thank the Taishu Temple. This time, there was someone who planned to participate in the joint operation against Xianmen Tianzong. That person was the Supreme Master of the Li Meng Sword, one of the 6 meridian swords of Mount Shu Sword Sect, Sword Venerable Li. That day in the battle of the opening ceremony outside of Sand Continent City, Kong Chong, the head disciple of the Li Meng swordsman, suffered a crushing defeat in Lin Feng's hands. Even though Lin Feng spared him from death, he still suffered a huge loss. For the venerable Li Meng swordsman to remember this is to be expected. This time, Dao Master Sky Wind and Dao Master Xianming joined forces to deal with Xianmen Tianzong, and they also contacted Sword Venerable Li. Sword Venerable Li even agreed to help, but he was stopped by the people of the Taishu Temple. Of course, the Taishu Temple had their own reasons for doing this, and it was not just to help Lin Feng. Yan Mingyue chuckled. Sect leader Lin, you are too polite. I dare not take credit for this. The decision was made by my eldest senior brother. Oh. Lin Feng nodded. I see. Yan Mingyue suddenly asked. Is the treasure that the Golden Crow Great Sage is looking for in your hands? Yes, Lin Feng said frankly. Are you interested, Taoist Yan? Yan Mingyue answered. Not so. I just want to remind you that the Tianho Golden Bead may bring you trouble. There are rumors in the Infinite Region that it is the relic of the Saint Emperor of the demon race that has been dead for thousands of years. There are many secrets involved, and this rumor has not been verified. There are many similar rumors, but they were later proven to be just rumors. But there are still some demons who believe this news, and the Golden Crow Great Sage is the most determined one. Lin Feng's pupils shrank. The Tianho Golden Bead? Yes, I know what I am doing. Thank you for telling me. Sect leader Lin, you are too polite. Yan Mingyue smiled and continued. In addition, I need to inform you that Dao Master Xianming has already received the news that you killed Dao Master Tianfeng and suppressed the Golden Crow Great Sage. One of the Essence Soul experts who came to Kunlun Mountain is the clan leader of the Shi family. It's a pity that we didn't meet. Lin Feng said lightly. As for Dao Master Xianming, I also felt a change in him. The change was that Yu Xintao began to go all out. He began to attack Lin Feng's yin and yang life and death array at all costs, but not to break the array and kill people, but to escape. Even though it was hundreds of thousands of miles away, Yujing Mountain passed through the void, and it wouldn't take long to return. When Lin Feng's main body returns with Yujing Mountain, Yu Xintao won't be able to leave even if he wanted to. In the battle with the yin and yang life and death array, he had a certain advantage. At this time he did not seek to break the array and kill people, but only to escape, which greatly reduced the difficulty. The only problem was the time. He had to leave before Yujing Mountain returned. A few cracks appeared on the black ice soul incarnation of his primordial spirit, and his magic treasure, the Xianming treasured strategy, was also damaged. Yu Xintao finally succeeded in killing his way out of the yin and yang life and death formation. Then without stopping he quickly fled. Yu Xintao could not care about saving Yu Ilan, Yu Shirling, and other ancestors of the Yuanying stage who were trapped in the array. It was not that he was ruthless. At this time, Yu Xintao was like Dao Master Tianfeng who had left to help Divine Wind Mountain. His heart was bleeding, but he had to make a prompt decision. It turned out that Yu Xintao's decision was extremely correct. As soon as he left, Lin Feng's body drove Yujing Mountain to kill his way here. Lin Feng looked at the yin and yang life and death array, where the tiny Shi Tianhao was fighting fiercely with the ancestor of the middle stage of the Yuanying stage, who was a whole realm higher than him. Chapter 392. Silently, Lin Feng sat upright on the mysterious heaven treasure tree on the top of Yujing Mountain. He did not interfere with the battle in the yin and yang life and death formation. Even his iron tree doppelganger had returned to the mountain. Except for Yu Ilan and the other two Yuanying late-stage practitioners, who were dealt with by the yin and yang life and death formation, Lin Feng did not activate the formation to attack the other four Yuanying middle-stage practitioners, including Yu Shirling. He only used the formation to trap them so that they could not escape. After a long and fierce battle, the battle in the formation finally came to an end. Lin Feng, who was resting with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. He smiled and looked into the formation. As the light and shadow flickered, a figure slowly walked out of the formation. He walked with some unsteady steps, and his body swayed slightly. He looked very weak, but his bright eyes were unprecedentedly excited. Master! The tiny Shi Tianhao came out of the yin and yang life and death formation. He looked at Lin Feng and smiled. I won. At this moment, Shi Tianhao's whole body was covered with an icy blue color, as if he had become an ice man. His body was covered with dense cracks like a spider's web, but no flesh and blood could be seen in these cracks. Only ice crystals kept falling down. If it were not for the protection of the great saint's beast skin, Shi Tianhao would have been dead by now. His whole body turned into ice crystals and completely shattered into powder. Even now, his whole body was like a porcelain doll that was about to break. At this moment, there was no need for Yuanying or Golden Elixir period practitioners, or even Foundation Establishment or Qi Refining Stage practitioners. Any strong man in the secular world could smash his whole body into pieces with one punch. The 9 Apertures Golden Elixir, which was absorbing and releasing a huge amount of spiritual qi of heaven and earth, was completely silent at this moment, as if it had fallen into a deep sleep. The icy cold mirror and the bronze void cauldron, the 2 great Yuanying celestial devices, were still in the yin and yang life and death formation. Shi Tianhao could not retrieve them, and the 2 celestial devices were also badly damaged and dim. It could be said that, except for the time when his supreme beer had just been dug out, today was the weakest and most seriously injured Shi Tianhao had ever been since he was born. He had 1 foot in the gate of hell. However, even though he was heavily injured, Shi Tianhao's expression was extremely joyful. His eyes were shining brightly, because just now he had successfully killed the Yu family's Yuanying middle stage ancestor with his cultivation at the Golden Elixir Middle Elixir Ling, with a whole realm gap. Moreover, the opponent was not an ordinary Middle Yuanying middle stage ancestor. Yu Shirling cultivated the Xianming art and mastered the Xianming true water. He was very strong, but after a hard fight, Shi Tianhao finally killed him. When the news of this battle spread, Shi Tianhao's reputation would shock the whole Tianyuan world, making him even more eye-catching than during the Desolate Sea Assembly. The world's estimation of the battle between him and Shi Tianyi in the future would be completely reversed. Even the dual-pupiled person who had been famous for a long time had not achieved a result like Shi Tianhao's today. Lin Feng looked at his disciple in front of him and nodded with satisfaction. I saw it. Well done. He flicked his finger and released a purple gas that contained the lunar true water, which enveloped Shi Tianhao's seriously injured and fragile body. Lin Feng found Yang Qing from the Wasteland Sea Assembly, handing him the small world that enveloped Xiao Budian. Bring him back to your cave residence, prepare enough lunar true water, and then soak your junior brother's entire body in it. Master will go set up a formation later. Yes, Master. Yang Qing carefully took the small world and looked at the little guy, Shi Tianhao, who was like a porcelain doll that was almost broken. He couldn't help but feel sour in his heart, and quickly returned to his nirvana paradise. After sending off Shi Tianhao, Lin Feng looked at the yin-yang life and death formation again. There, Zhui was also fighting with the middle-stage Yuanying cultivator of the Wind God sect. Both sides were locked in a battle. However, the Yuanying ancestor of the Wind God sect was obviously uneasy, because Kong Nanhua was silently standing at the side, supporting Zhui. Needless to say, he was currently trapped in the yin-yang life and death formation by Lin Feng. His life was uncertain and his future was unpredictable. Under the heavy pressure, he couldn't help but have his hands and feet tied. On the other side, Wang Lin had entered the Yellow Springs death stage to fight another middle-stage Yuanying cultivator of the Wind God sect. Although Wang Lin had just successfully formed his core, his fighting strength was extremely fierce. His opponent was also not in a good state, and the Kuei Niu King was watching from the side. After Kong Nanhua and the Kuei Niu King received Lin Feng's voice transmission and learned that the situation was settled, they both had the same idea. They no longer fought, but instead supported Zhu Yi and Wang Lin, allowing them to fight with the Yuanying stage opponent, accumulate experience and sharpen their Dao skills and divine abilities. Previously, when the little guy, Shi Tianhao, fought with Yu Shirling, Miao Shihao handed the middle-stage Yuanying ancestor of the Yu family to Jieyu and Tunten. Silently, he did not interfere with the battle, but kept an eye on Shi Tianhao's condition, ready to rescue him at any time. But Shi Tianhao was so fierce that he almost perished together with his opponent to kill Yu Shirling, which made Miao Shihao exclaim in admiration. Sect Master, I have to say that except for Yang Qing, your disciples all have a frightening ruthlessness in their bones. Miao Shihao came out of the yin and yang life and death formation, and came to Lin Feng's side, sighing, little Tianhao is so fierce at such a young age. Even I, brother Shihao, am surprised. Lin Feng smiled slightly. Shihao, you are wrong. Why do you say that? Miao Shihao was taken aback. Lin Feng said indifferently, every disciple of mine has a ruthlessness in their bones. It's just that some people hide it more deeply, and it will not be easily aroused. They may not even show it for the rest of their lives, but it does exist, and they are more tyrannical and fierce than others. Hearing this, Miao Shihao turned his head and looked at Nirvana Cave thoughtfully. At this time, Lin Feng took out the Mirage Golden Bead and looked at it carefully. He immediately found that a considerable part of the milky white mist inside the bead had turned light gold. Let's not talk about whether this Mirage Golden Bead is the relic of the Saint Emperor of the Demon Clan, but it is definitely a treasure. Lin Feng thought. Maybe Dao Master Tianfeng relied on this treasure to set up 2 9 Heavens Gale formations. Lin Feng guessed that this Mirage Golden Bead was likely to have the function of mirroring, imitating, or duplicating. Moreover, it was an extremely powerful 100% copy, which was exactly the same as the original, more real than the real thing. The demonic beast was born to develop the way of illusion to the extreme. Lin Feng tried to communicate with the Mirage Golden Bead, which shook slightly, but did not respond to Lin Feng's command. Since it's called the Golden Pearl, it looks like completely turning gold is the true appearance of this treasure. Lin Feng looked at the milky white mist turning more and more into a pale gold within the pearl, already understanding in his heart. It seemed that the Mirage Golden Bead's duplication ability needed some time to recover after being used once, and then it could be used again. Dao Master Tianfeng must have used this bead to duplicate a 9 Heavens Gale formation. Unfortunately, Dao Master Tianfeng can only control one formation with all his strength. Otherwise, if he used 2 9 Heavens Gale formations at the same time, it would take me more effort to break through his mountain gate. Lin Feng played with the Mirage Golden Bead. When the mist inside the bead turns completely golden, I should be able to use it again, but I wonder if there is any limit to its duplication. Could it only duplicate lifeless things? Was there a limit to the power of duplication? Or was there a limit to the duration of duplication? Lin Feng was very interested in this, but he was more concerned about the news he got from Yan Mingyue. The relic of the Saint Emperor of the Demon Clan? Lin Feng slightly furrowed his brows. Great demons of the demon race who have cultivated an indestructible demon soul are respectfully called great sages, just like how human cultivators who have cultivated to the primordial spirit are called Tao sovereigns. In addition to some ancient great saints who lived in seclusion, the top 10 of the more active grand demons were collectively called the 10 saints of the demon clan. The enchantress was almost recognized as the first among the 10 saints, but she was not as prestigious as the Saint Emperor at the moment. The Saint Emperor of the demon clan was above thousands of demon clan. He was the sovereign of infinite wasteland, and could make every demon clan who worshipped the strong submit to him. He was the supreme emperor among the great saints. Thousands of years ago, the previous Saint Emperor of the demon clan had fallen in the war between the human clan and the demon clan. The human clan had sacrificed countless primordial soul realm cultivators to kill him, and thus obtain the final victory in the war. However, the huge price they had paid made it impossible for the human clan to expand their victory. In the end, it was only a Pyrrhic victory. Since then, Infinite Wasteland and the demon clan fell into the Warring States era, and there was no new Saint Emperor. The Enchantress was currently the most likely grand demon to become the new Saint Emperor, but she still had a long way to go. Even such a grand demon was unwilling to be subordinate to humans, so how could the Golden Crow Great Saint not have any thoughts about the position of Saint Emperor? That was why the old bird was so stubborn after hearing about the heavenly scarlet golden bead. Lin Feng thought for a moment, then put the heavenly scarlet golden bead away. Taishu Temple is probably the human force that pays the most attention to the situation in the demon clan. They have long received news about the heavenly scarlet golden bead, but they have not taken any action. They probably don't think the rumors are true. But who can say for sure about such things? Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. Let's settle the matter in front of us first. It has been delayed long enough. At his command, Kong Nanhua and the others, who were holding the line for Zhu Yi and the others, immediately joined the battle. The other side was instantly defeated and was utterly defeated. Lin Feng activated the Yin-Yang Life and Death formation, and sent the 3 captured mid-stage Yuanying cultivators to accompany Yu Ilwan, and the other 2 late-stage Yuanying cultivators. The 3 late-stage Yuanying cultivators had already been suppressed by Lin Feng. Putting away the Yin-Yang Life and Death formation, Lin Feng smiled at his disciples. Let's go. Yujing Mountain once again entered the void and disappeared. At this point, the great battle caused by the Wind God sect and the Yu clan finally came to an end. The patriarch of the Yu clan, Lord Xianming Yu Xintao, fled in defeat. The Yu clan had 1 late-stage Yuanying ancestor and 2 mid-stage Yuanying ancestor dead. The Golden Elixir Period Foundation establishment cultivators were also killed. The entire Wind God sect, including the sect master Lord Tianfeng, was wiped out. The primordial soul realm expert Lord Tianfeng was killed on the spot by Lin Feng. One of the 10 sages of the demon clan, the Golden Crow Sage, who invaded the Divine Land during the chaos, also died in the Kunlun mountain range, and was suppressed by Lin Feng. A few days later, the news spread throughout the Kunlun mountain range. All the cultivators and sects in the mountain knew that the Kunlun mountain range had entered the era of Xianmen Tianzong. Xianmen Tianzong had officially established its position as the overlord of the Kunlun mountain range. And the news quickly spread throughout the world. Silently, Chao Wei stood at the peak of the snow-capped mountain in the northern ice field, looking in the southwest direction and remaining silent for a long time. After a while, his figure disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in the holy land of the Heaven Pool sect. There were 2 powerful wills there. Chapter 393. Within the sacred ground of Snow Mountain Heavenly Lake sect, it was a world completely formed by ice and fire. Half was ice and half was fire. The 2 sides were clearly separated. There was no conflict between them. but they were definitely not compatible. Silently, Chao Wei stood in this world of ice and fire. The two extremely powerful intents in the air were also silent. After a long while, a voice came from the world of fire. It's fine. If this person comes, we will come out. Chao Wei nodded and didn't say anything. Although in his heart, if Yujing Mountain really fell, the two elders coming out might not be able to guarantee that nothing would go wrong. At this moment, another old voice came from the world of ice. Put aside the matter of the Void Mountain River Cauldron and the Bronze Void Cauldron for now. Only after the two of us officially come out can we take the initiative to attack. Before that, don't act rashly. Chao Wei's expression was indifferent. He still nodded and didn't say anything. The voice in the world of fire said, since the Bronze Void Cauldron is with that kid called Shi Tianhao, you can keep an eye on him. When the time comes, he will definitely go to the Qin dynasty's Shi family to take revenge. When the time comes, various forces will be involved. You can consider and wait for an opportunity to act. Chao Wei said. Uncle He's thoughts coincide with mine. I am prepared to find an opportunity at that time. The two of you have been in seclusion for 1,000 years, and have reached the most critical moment. If it wasn't for the sect facing a great calamity, I really don't want the two of you to come out without doing your best. Elder Hua of the Heavenly Lake Sect's Ice and Fire Elders snorted. How can the two of us be willing to waste all our efforts? Elder Ice said slowly, the Void Mountain River Cauldron is very important, but the time is getting shorter and shorter. If it really comes to it, we can only come out early. Chao Wei nodded. I know what I'm doing. Don't worry, two uncle masters. After leaving the sect's sacred ground, Chao Wei returned to the peak of the snow mountain and looked towards the southwest. After a long while, he sighed heavily. He felt his heart was heavy. At the Desolate Sea Assembly, I was a bit rash. Southeast of the Qin dynasty, on the Yunqing peak of the Celeritas Sword Sect, a few people stood by the cliff and looked towards the direction of Kunlun Mountain. The person at the front who looked like a middle-aged scholar was precisely the Celeritas Sword Sect middle-stage nascent soul-stage cultivator Ziyun ancestor. At this moment his expression was somewhat strange. There was vexation, rejoicing, and also lingering fear, but even more so bitterness. The people behind him were all Celeritas Sword Sect's Yuanying stage ancestors. Qixia ancestor and Qingwei ancestor were also among them. No one laughed at Ancestor Ziyun ancestor dejected expression because they all looked the same. Ancestor Qixia shook his head with a bitter smile. Fortunately, when the celestial sect of Xianmen visited that day, they didn't really do anything to force us to stay, otherwise. This female ancestor shook her head, unable to continue speaking. The other nascent soul stage ancestors of the Celeritas Sword Sect all nodded with sorrow in their hearts. Before, Xiaoyan came to fulfill his promise to fight with Murong Yanran 3 years ago. After witnessing Xiaoyan's strength in the great battle outside of the Sandbank City, Ancestor Qingwei, who was still Murong Yanran's grandmaster at that time, immediately knew that if they really fought, Murong Yanran was not Xiaoyan's match at all. At that time, the Celeritas Sword Sect had thought about using force to suppress people. But in the end, because of their scruples about the relationship between Lin Feng and Xianmen Tianzong, they gave up their original plan. Looking at it now, everyone felt a burst of fear and rejoice. Luckily, they were willing to bet, and they were willing to lose. Otherwise, the result would really be worrying. Although no one said it directly, Ziyun ancestor and the others all knew that the Celeritas Sword Sect's strength was about the same as the Wind God sect's. The descendants of the Celeritas Sword Sect were all sword cultivators. They were good at killing and their swordsmanship was profound. The Wind God sect cultivators cultivated the Wind God formless art, and could refine the 9 heaven formless astral wind. Their strength could not be underestimated. The sect gate formations of both sides, the cloudy sky flowing light sword formation and the 9 heaven gale formation, the power was also basically on the same level. Then the problem was that Lin Feng could forcefully blast open the 9 heaven gale formation. Naturally, he could also use the same method to deal with the Celeritas Sword Sect. If they really had a great battle that day, the final result would most likely be the Celeritas Sword Sect suffering a big loss. Coming to this conclusion made Ziyun ancestor and the others feel a serious sense of defeat. On the top of the cloud-traversing peak, in an exquisite hall, Sword Venerable Flowing Light sat cross-legged silently. But his gaze was also looking in the direction of Kunlun Mountain. In the eyes of this great sword cultivator, light constantly lit up, then gradually extinguished, then lit up again, repeating endlessly. Thunder Mountain Range Zixiao Peak. This was the location of the Zixiao Path. The top of the mountain was shrouded in thick thunderclouds that did not disperse for 10,000 years. The sun could not be seen all year round. Only lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, rising and falling in the thick dark clouds. The disciples of the Zixiao Path were already used to this scene. On the other hand, the young disciples who had just entered the sect were rather not used to it. On one hand, they felt gloomy and oppressive. On the other hand, they feared that heavenly lightning would suddenly strike down and land on their bodies. The result of the great battle in Kunlun Mountain had already spread throughout the world. The Zixiao Path also received the news. A woman stood in front of a cave abode on Zixiao Peak, looking in the direction of Kunlun Mountain. She laughed and shook her head. I really didn't expect that little guy to actually have such powerful strength. Killing a Yuanying intermediate stage with golden elixir intermediate stage. It can practically be said to be unprecedented, right? A young man behind her smiled and said, I don't dare say that it absolutely hasn't happened, but at least I can't think of anyone else who has done it in the short term. The man smiled, revealing the dimples on his cheeks. He was precisely the Zixiao Path disciple Gu Lei who participated in the Desolate Sea spell assembly back then. The woman was naturally Gu Lei's junior sister Li Kuei-yin. She shook her head and sighed. When I saw his battle with Zhu Yi at the spell assembly, I knew that he was very strong, terrifyingly strong. But I really didn't expect that he would be so strong. In the hall of the Heavenly Thunder Palace on the top of Zixiao Peak, Dao Master Lan Ting also shook his head and sighed. Tianfeng and Xianming suffered losses, but it's not a big deal. Even the old Golden Crow was suppressed, and the gate of Divine Wind Mountain was blasted open. This is really unexpected. Opposite him sat a tall middle-aged man. He looked ordinary, but he revealed an aura that was even more terrifying than Dao Master Lan Ting's. This middle-aged man looked like a gloomy thundercloud. Hidden in his dull appearance was an incomparably violent power. This person was the current sect master of Zixiao Path, Dao Master Lei Yun. After listening to Dao Master Lan Ting's words, Dao Master Lei Yun nodded slowly and said, Senior brother is right. His accent was extremely strange. Every word he spat out was like a muffled thunder exploding in the air. As Dao Master Lan Ting said, compared to Yu Xintao's defeat and Dao Master Tianfeng's death, they were more concerned about the fact that Dao Master Tianfeng was guarding the Divine Wind Mountain's 9 heavens astral wind formation. It was not the first time that the Golden Crow Great Sage broke into the Divine Land. Every time he would escape unscathed. Many times he even caused the human clan cultivation world a lot of trouble. Unexpectedly, he was directly defeated this time. Although Dao Master Lan Ting was Dao Master Lei Yun's senior brother, he was very respectful to his junior brother. Sect Master, what should we do next? Slowly Dao Master Lei Yun said. It seems that I have to trouble senior brother to go to Kunlun. Dao Master Lan Ting hesitated for a moment. Senior brother, Xianmen Tianzong has made many enemies. It's okay for us to be on good terms with him, but if we get too close, most of the time, it is not so clear between friends and enemies. Dao Master Lei Yun said. I got the news that Sword Master Li Meng of Mount Shu Sword Sect was going to take action this time, but was stopped by Taishu Temple. Dao Master Lan Ting's face showed a thoughtful expression. Is Taishu Temple going to adjust its layout? Dao Master Lei Yun did not explain too much. Since the destruction of the Great Leiyin Temple, Taishu Temple has been adjusting, but today, the time is finally ripe. Dao Master Lan Ting said. In that case, I will go to Kunlun Mountain. Dao Master Lei Yun nodded. Thank you, senior brother. In the study of the Prime Minister's mansion in the north of the Great Qin dynasty, a middle-aged scholar in his 30s sat silently in a rattan chair. He was dressed in cotton clothes and looked simple and elegant. His face was elegant and his eyes were deep, like the sea, but also bottomless and unpredictable. This seemingly ordinary scholar was the prime minister of the Great Qin dynasty, Wu Qingru, who many people were afraid of. At this moment, his fingers gently tapped on the desk in front of him, thinking silently. A young man stood beside Wu Qingru, silently said, Xianmen Tianzong let go of the Yu family and chose the Wind God sect. As expected, Wu Qingru stopped tapping on the desk and chuckled. If it were me, I would also let go of Yu Xintao and leave him to the Great Qin dynasty to deal with. I will deal with the Wind God sect first. How can I allow others to sleep soundly on the side of my bed? After getting rid of the Wind God sect, Xianmen Tianzong can dominate the Kunlun mountain range, and its influence and power will be greatly improved. Not only will it double, but it will triple or even more. Wu Qingru said silently. Completely integrating an area, without any resistance or hindrance, will be of great benefit to Xianmen Tianzong. From a certain point of view, this is the same logic as the Great Qin dynasty cleaning up the aristocratic families. They are both removing the internal hidden dangers first. The young man said. It has already been a few days. The master of Xianmen sect has not gathered the Kunlun mountain range, especially the sects in the southern area of the Kunlun mountain range. Wu Qingru smiled. There is no need for that. After the destruction of the Wind God sect, the Kunlun mountain range doesn't even have an opponent on the surface, let alone a force that can actually fight against Xianmen Tianzong. Xianmen Tianzong is already the de facto leader of the Kunlun mountain range. At this time, we just need to let nature take its course. The small and medium-sized forces in the Kunlun mountain range will automatically draw close to Xianmen Tianzong. If we hold some kind of formal alliance, it will be disadvantageous and lose to arrogance. If the master of Xianmen sect really does that, in my eyes he is no longer a threat. He sighed. But now it seems that the master of Xianmen sect is not simple. The young man asked. Then according to eldest senior brother, we can start the second step of the plan? Wu Qingru nodded. It is time. The capital of the Great Zhou dynasty, within the Tianjing imperial palace. Zhou Diliang sat cross-legged on the dragon throne in deep thought. After a long while he raised his head and looked at the Marquis of Xuanji Zhu Hongwu, Yan Mingyue and Mei Wulong in front of him. Next, it is Hongwu. Your son Zhu Yi is going to return to my Great Zhou to take the exam. Chapter 394. Zhou Diliang sat cross-legged on the dragon throne, silently looking at Zhu Hongwu, Yan Mingyue and Mei Wulong below. Wulong, I'll leave this matter to you. Hearing this, Mei Wulong immediately bowed. As you command. Liang Pan then looked at the Marquis of Xuanji Zhu Hongwu, slowly saying, the Qin dynasty will soon be in turmoil. Our Zhou dynasty cannot stay out of it. But I think that many people do not wish for us to interfere. Perhaps they will make some moves beforehand. I'll leave this to you, Hongwu. Zhu Hongwu bowed. Don't worry, Your Majesty, some underhanded tricks cannot be shown in public. Yan Mingyue suddenly said from the side. The fourth prince is currently on an imperial edict, heading far away to Shushan. The Zhou dynasty cannot help. Liang Pan smiled faintly. Don't worry, Fairy Yan, we already have a plan in mind. Yan Mingyue's gaze flashed, nodding without saying anything. But in reality, her heart was filled with suspicion. If something happens to the fourth prince Lianggan in Shushan, there will definitely be a conflict between the Zhou dynasty and Shushan. Liang Pan and Zhu Hongwu cannot have thought of this. Her gaze shifted between Liang Pan and Zhu Hongwu. Seeing that both of them were calm and indifferent, she suppressed the suspicions in her heart. Zhu Hongwu looked towards Yan Mingyue at this time, asking, is Taishu Temple sure to change its previous arrangement? Yan Mingyue brushed her hair behind her ear, smiling. The Zhou dynasty's recent momentum is too ferocious. And even though Xianmen Tianzong's rise is unexpected, it has indeed given Taishu Temple another choice. Zhu Hongwu nodded, calmly saying, it's futile. My Majesty's rule over the world is the will of the heavens, it cannot be stopped. Yan Mingyue smiled, not making any response. She looked into the air, a bit spellbound. Is this eldest senior brother's doing? Such great boldness. But whether or not it can reach the desired result will depend on everyone's own abilities. I can roughly understand the situation of the Zhou dynasty at any time. But Xianmen Tianzong might bring us a pleasant surprise. Eldest senior brother, you won't make the same mistake as junior brother Peng, right? Just as Wu Qingru had said, after the Battle of Kunlun Mountain, Lin Feng did not deliberately show his presence and dominance in the Kunlun Mountain range. The Wind God sect was annihilated without any room to fight back. The mountain range within thousands of miles of the Divine Wind Mountain ruins was destroyed and turned into a wasteland. All of these had declared to the entire Kunlun Mountain range that Xianmen Tianzong was the overlord. Xianmen Tianzong was as mysterious and unfathomable as ever. Yujing Mountain was hidden in the void, untraceable and lofty. Batch after batch of Kunlun Mountain's local small and medium-sized forces headed to Sand Continent City, hoping to pay a visit to Xianmen Tianzong, especially hoping to see the master of the celestial sect of wonders, Lin Feng. Among them, the majority were forces from the southern foothills of Kunlun Mountain. Kong Nanhua and Miao Shihao, who often traveled between Sand Continent City and Jade Capital Mountain, became the targets of these people. However, there were also some forces in the southern foothills of Kunlun Mountain, especially the forces at the edge of the mountain range, who were secretly contacting other forces that were close to them. In this regard, Lin Feng did not mind and did not stop them. Kunlun Mountain itself was not very rich in cultivation resources. Otherwise, for thousands of years, there would not have been any particularly large sects that had taken root here and established their own sections. At this time, the infiltration of external forces, to a greater extent, was not to compete for the territory and resources of Kunlun Mountain, but a preventive measure against Xianmen Tianzong. However, at this moment, more than 90% of the cultivation forces in Kunlun Mountain had expressed their allegiance to Xianmen Tianzong. Lin Feng was now not only in the northern foothills of Kunlun Mountain, but also in the southern foothills of Kunlun Mountain, where there was originally no foundation. Lin Feng's personal reputation and the overall reputation of the sect had soared to 85 points and 80 points respectively. The increase was extremely violent. After this battle, the most notable feature was that Lin Feng discovered that his reputation in the entire world, as well as the reputation of the celestial sect of wonders as a whole, had increased tremendously. Although there was still a long way to go before reaching 80, this change was extremely gratifying. In the past, whether it was the opening ceremony outside Sand Continent City, accompanying Xiao Yan to Cloud Traversing Peak for the appointment, or leading a team to participate in the Desolate Sea Assembly, the increase of reputation was regional. In other words, only one or a few regions had a significant increase in reputation. Although his reputation in the whole world had also increased, the rate of increase was extremely slow. After this battle, Lin Feng's personal reputation, and the overall reputation of the sect in various regions of the divine land of the Great Heaven Primordial World, had a relatively large increase. In addition to destroying the Wind God sect, the Old Gold Crow should also be an important point. Lin Feng was well aware of this and was in a good mood. According to this development, the hope of completing the main mission is still very high. Of course, it was also very difficult. As the rise of Xianmen Tianzong became more and more powerful, there would naturally be more and more other forces who were vigilant and dissatisfied with Xianmen Tianzong, or even hostile towards them. The reason was the same as the Wind God sect. The cake was only so big. Seeing a person who suddenly broke in to share the cake getting stronger and stronger, and taking more and more of the cake, others would definitely feel dissatisfied. Lin Feng's personal reputation, and the overall reputation of Xianmen Tianzong had been increasing so far. However, Lin Feng believed that the reputation would not only increase but not decrease. Once he and the sect encountered a setback, the reputation value was very likely to decrease, which would be very troublesome. Therefore, after this battle, although Lin Feng had won a great victory, he would be prepared for danger in times of peace and further work hard to improve his strength. Digesting the results of the battle was the most effective way to improve his strength. The little Shi Tianhao was still recuperating, so Lin Feng handed the captured King Feilian to the Kuei Niu King to discipline. In the future, They would be sent to the desolate sky valley of the Little One, where the power of the wind and thunder transformation talisman array could be maximized. After returning to the mountain, Lin Feng immediately went to Yang Qing's Nirvana cave. He opened up a pool there and filled it with flowing lunar true water. He also set up a formation that would help the lunar true water unleash its power. Then he put the injured Shi Tianhao in. The little guy would have to recuperate here for a very long period of time. After Lin Feng left, Yang Qing took care of this heavily injured junior apprentice brother with all his heart. Besides Yu Shiling, who was killed on the spot by Shi Tianhao, the other Yuanying stage cultivators of the Wind God sect and the Yu clan were captured. The Yuanying stage magic tools that were not damaged were rewarded by Lin Feng to Kong Nanhua, Miao Shihao, the Kuei Niu King, Jie Yu and Tuntin. Whether it was the Yuanying stage magic tools of the Wind God sect, or the Yuanying stage magic tools of the Yu clan, they were all very precious. In a sense, their value surpassed that of ordinary Yuanying stage magic tools. The former was refined using the Wind God formless technique to draw the 9 heavens formless astral wind, while the latter was refined using the mysterious nether technique and mysterious nether true water. When Kong Nanhua, Miao Shihao and the others refined their magic tools, they not only had an additional method to defend against the enemy, but also could study the concept of power within. Although they could not control the 9 heavens formless astral wind and mysterious nether true water, both their cultivation of Taoism and fighting strength had been greatly improved. For Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, Yu Hongyan and Yang Qing, the most valuable harvest was to digest all kinds of gains from this battle as soon as possible. As for the magic tools below the Yuanying stage, Lin Feng filled his small treasury, which could be used to reward younger disciples in the future. What made Lin Feng feel regretful was that although he had defeated Dao Master Tianfeng, the most important treasure of the Wind God sect, the Tianfeng treasure fan, had been greatly damaged. The magic treasure had been closely integrated with Dao Master Tianfeng's own primordial spirit incarnation. When Dao Master Tianfeng was killed by Yujing Mountain, the Tianfeng treasure fan also suffered. The Tianfeng treasure fan was directly smashed by Yujing Mountain. Lin Feng could only collect all the fragments. It was not difficult to put it back together, but the problem was that the magic treasure's primordial spirit had the same fate as Dao Master Tianfeng. Even if the broken fan was put back together, its pneuma had been damaged. It was impossible for it to generate its own spiritual consciousness. He could only wait for Lin Feng to reach the primordial spirit realm, repair it with other treasures, and then refine it again. Maybe it would be possible to make this magic treasure shine again. The good news was that the formation map of the 9 heavens astral wind formation was still intact. Although it was damaged, it could soon be used again if it could be repaired. But Lin Feng had more important things to do at the moment. Sitting cross-legged on the trunk of the mysterious sky treasure tree, in front of Lin Feng, there were 6 clouds of purple chi floating in the air, forming 6 small worlds. There was a silhouette imprisoned in each of the minor worlds. Upon closer inspection, 3 of them were enormous giants. One had only 1 eye and 1 arm, and his eyes emitted an icy blue light. The other 2 were bird-headed and human-bodied, with wings on their backs. When they flapped, strong winds blew. These were the Dharma Laxoff, the Yu family's late-stage Yuanying ancestor, Yu Ilwan, and the 2 Wind God sect's late-stage Yuanying ancestor. In the other 3 small worlds, there were 3 light shadows that looked like 12 or 13 years old imprisoned. They were the Yuanying ancestor of Yu Ilwan, and the other 2 Yuanying ancestor. When the 3 late-stage Yuanying ancestors were involved in the yin and yang life and death formation, they struggled violently. After Lin Feng also imprisoned Lord Xianming Yu Xintao. In order to use the yin and yang life and death formation to deal with Yu Xintao, Lin Feng had to deal with the 3 troublemakers first. Under the bombardment of the formation, the 3 bodies were destroyed, leaving only the Yuanying ancestor and the Dharma Laxoff. Under the attack of the power of the magic formation, the spiritual consciousness of the 3 nascent souls was gradually worn out, leaving only the most primitive, the most ancient ignorance, the true ignorance, the inability, and the thoughtless, just like a newborn baby. At this point, they could no longer cause trouble for Lin Feng. Therefore, Lin Feng sealed their Yuanying ancestors and Dharma Laxoff separately. Lin Feng stared at the 6 small worlds in front of him, and kept thinking. Gradually, he had a clear idea. Stretching out his finger, Lin Feng first touched Yu Ilwan's Yuanying. Then, Yu Ilwan's Yuanying ancestor turned into a white light and rushed into another small world. There was Yu Ilwan's own Dharma Laxoff, the one-eyed and one-armed giant. The Yuanying ancestor merged with the Dharma Laxoff, the heavens and earth. Suddenly, it was as if the soul had a body. Yu Ilwan's Dharma Laxoff, the heavens and earth began to shake violently. Chapter 395. Although the small world formed from the purple chi floating in front of Lin Feng was only the size of a fist, and the scene inside seemed very microscopic, there was another world within. At this moment, in the small world, the worldly avatar of the Yu family's late Yuanying patriarch, Yu Ilwan, stood upright between heaven and earth. It was dozens of feet tall and stood on the ground. It only had a single arm and a single eye on its face. The single eye shot out an icy blue beam of light. Everywhere it passed, even the scenery formed from the purple chi in the small world turned into ice crystals, and then shattered. If not for the constant circulation of the power within the small world to dissolve and repair, the small world would have completely collapsed over time, turning into ice crystals, and then into dust. This was the worldly avatar that had already lost its master's control, and had become unconscious. If someone were to control it, its destructive power would be even greater. But now, after Lin Feng sent Yu Ilwan's Yuanying into the worldly avatar, a change immediately occurred. It was as if the spirit of a person who had left his body had finally returned to his physical body. Yuanying had a powerful sustenance, while the worldly avatar had a soul, thoughts, and a ruler. Lin Feng could even feel that because they came from the same source, when the two sides met and even created new sparks, it made the nascent soul that had originally fallen into an unconscious and thoughtless state gradually give birth to an independent consciousness again. Whether it was Yuanying or the worldly avatar, they were both the crystallization of Yu Ilwan's cultivation in the past. Naturally, they contained Yu Ilwan's own memory imprint. Now that the two were combined, the memory imprint was reactivated and was about to appear again. If that happened, Yu Ilwan would be resurrected. Almost at the first moment, Lin Feng vaguely felt a kind of resentment, fear, anger, and panic being born. Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. He extended a finger and tapped on the forehead of the one-eyed giant. With this tap, Yu Ilwan's self-consciousness that was in the process of reassembling was destroyed. Even the remaining memory imprint was completely erased. Thus, Yu Ilwan completely disappeared from the world. After the Yuanying that originally belonged to Yu Ilwan fused with the universal laws, the violent tremors did not stop. On the contrary, they became even more intense. The Cyclops, which was hundreds of feet tall, was constantly collapsing and reforming. His body was gradually distorting and covered in a thick layer of ice crystals. An extremely powerful chill spread out from the body of the one-eyed giant. It was a chill that seemed to want to return the world to the Ice Age. It was very similar to Lord Xianming Yuxintao's mana aura, but it was not as powerful as Yuxintao's. It was not as agile as Yuxintao's mana aura, and it did not contain a mysterious great way like Yuxintao's. Lin Feng thought to himself, although I have not experienced it personally, based on the experiences of the predecessors, I can roughly understand that the process of attaining the primordial soul realm is the process of mastering the Dharma of heaven and earth in the later stages of Yuanying. When the Yuanying is strengthened to the extreme, it will become one with the Dharma of heaven and earth, combining with the power of the laws of the Great Path. If it is successful, it can cultivate the primordial soul incarnation. At this moment, the Yu Ilwan I have has already cultivated the Dharma of heaven and earth, but the Yuanying has not reached its peak. Generally speaking, a nascent soul in its peak state would have the appearance of a cultivator when they were about 16 years old. Let's not talk about this for now. Lin Feng frowned. The problem is that the Yuanying and the Dharma of heaven and earth are only the basics. A cultivator needs to combine the power of the laws of the Great Path that he has comprehended himself, to finally cultivate the primordial soul incarnation. This was a bigger problem. To comprehend the laws of the Great Path and the truth of the world, these things had to be comprehended by oneself. Not to mention that Lin Feng had not cultivated the primordial soul. Even if he had reached the primordial soul realm, he would not be able to forcefully raise the Yuanying from the later stages to the primordial soul realm with a wave of his hand. If this could be done, the primordial soul realm cultivators in the Tianyuan Great World would have long been everywhere. Lin Feng sighed. It seems that I can only create a fake god, or false god. But it's not bad. He flicked his fingers continuously, sending dharmic powers into the small worlds in the heavens, constantly polishing the dharma of heaven and earth that looked like a one-eyed giant. The Yuanying essence in the dharma of heaven and earth was like a cocoon that was extracted by Lin Feng bit by bit before fusing with the body of the dharma of heaven and earth. The two sides fused closely before being transformed into a brand new state that had never been seen before. The appearance of the body was constantly changing. The entire body was crystallizing, and its color gradually changed from icy blue to black, emitting a dark and cold glow. The giant's legs, feet, and the single arm slowly disintegrated until they completely disappeared. In the end, the originally tall one-eyed giant had completely transformed into a huge ice soul, with a radius of hundreds of feet. The ice soul was pure black. From its appearance, apart from its slightly smaller size, it looked exactly the same as Yu Xintao's primordial soul incarnation. However, the pressure brought by this black ice soul was completely incomparable to Yu Xintao's primordial soul incarnation. But in terms of pure power, it had already far surpassed the original late-stage Yuanying patriarch Yu Ilwan himself. It had surpassed the peak that a Yuanying stage could reach, and was infinitely close to the primordial soul stage. In terms of actual combat power, this black ice soul had all the dharma spells and techniques that Yu Ilwan knew. But because it did not have a consciousness, its transformation was stiff and rigid. But in terms of power, it was much stronger. Overall, its power was above that of Yu Ilwan himself. It was better than late-stage Yuanying, but not as good as a genuine primordial soul stage powerhouse. Of course, fake gods also had a major flaw, which was that their path of advancement was cut off, and they no longer had any hope of becoming a real primordial soul. Overall, Lin Feng was still satisfied. Not only had he obtained a fake god with extraordinary power, but he had also gained a lot from observing the transformation process of Yuanying's power after it merged with the heaven and earth dharma form. In the future, when he tried to break through to the primordial soul stage, he would have more experience to refer to. Lin Feng waved his hand, and a relatively thick branch of the mysterious sky treasure tree was immediately cut off. Its size kept shrinking, and finally, it turned into a straight long stick, like a flagpole. Lin Feng took a large amount of cyclic purple qi, and turned it into a huge purple flag. Then he merged this flag with the flagpole that the mysterious sky treasure tree had transformed into, becoming a complete flag. The leaves on the mysterious sky treasure tree's branch also merged into the flag, causing the purple flag to emit a colorful glow. Then Lin Feng stretched out his hand and pointed. The huge black ice soul in the small world of heavens flew out. But before it could show its true size, it was swept up by the purple flag. Lin Feng inserted a few more dharma power restrictions into it, and continued to refine it. The black ice soul disappeared, and in its place, a black pattern appeared on the surface of the purple flag. Seeing that he had succeeded, Lin Feng raised the flag and waved it slightly. As the purple flag fluttered, a black light flashed and flew out. Then it turned into a huge black ice soul with a diameter of dozens of feet in the air. It emitted a cold air, and countless transparent ice crystals spread into the surroundings. Anything that came into contact with the ice crystals, even the invisible air, would be frozen. In an instant, it was as if the entire world had returned to the ice age of the everlasting night. Everything had withered, and the world was frozen. Lin Feng nodded in satisfaction. He waved the flag again, and the black ice soul turned into a black light again and retracted. It's still very simple and sloppy. Lin Feng knew that the purple flag still needed a long time to refine, and the restrictions on it were few and simple. If he wanted this treasure to be truly perfected, there were many things that needed to be done. But it was all worth it. According to Lin Feng's expectations, after the flag was completely perfected, if a late-stage Yuanying cultivator was captured, even if the intelligence in the Yuanying divine soul or Dharma idol was not erased, he could still use this purple flag to control them. Right now, the purple flag could only contain one sealed body, the Black Ice Soul. As the number of restrictions inside increased and became more complete, more and more spirit bodies could be sealed inside. When it accumulated to a certain extent, with a wave of the flag, a few, a dozen, dozens, or even hundreds of late-stage Yuanying cultivators, and even fake divinity-level spirit bodies would rush out and pounce on the enemy. And this was just the beginning. If Lin Feng himself reached the primordial soul realm, he could refine this treasure into a treasure, and even a primordial soul incarnation could be imprisoned. However, at that time, he would definitely need more materials to strengthen and refine this flag. At the same time, the restrictions and array formations set up inside would naturally need to be improved, and supplemented. This would require Lin Feng to constantly analyze and study. As Lin Feng was pondering, Wang Lin came to visit. After meeting, Wang Lin quickly explained his purpose of visit. The young man wanted to go home to visit his family. My disciple, your cultivation is gradually on the right track. I want to go back to see my parents, Wang Lin said with a nostalgic look in his eyes. According to the real world's time, Wang Lin had only been away from home for a little more than 2 years. But for Wang Lin, who had been cultivating in the mysterious heaven-time-space grotto heaven for many years, he had been away from home for far too long. The more time passed, the more Wang Lin missed his parents. He even remembered clearly what his parents had said when he had just entered the Hung Yu sect and left home, as if everything had happened just yesterday. Son, if it's really too hard, then come home. It's fine if we don't become immortals. Our family can live peacefully. What nonsense are you talking about? Our son will definitely become an immortal. How can I not know that I gave birth to him? I don't care if he's an immortal or not. I just want my son to be successful in this life and live happily. That's more important than anything else. Aya, becoming an immortal is the most promising thing. Son, it's about time. Remember to come back. Mother will introduce you to a wife. You're short-sighted again. If our son becomes an immortal, then the wife he finds will definitely not be ordinary. When the time comes, bring back an immortal wife for us. Aya, then how would I dare to drink tea from someone else? It seemed like a long-winded chatter, but every time Wang Lin thought about it, he felt warmth in his heart. His concern for his parents was also one of the greatest motivations for him to work hard at cultivating. Thinking about how he had only entered the Hung Yu sect because he had committed suicide, and how his parents had been criticized behind their backs, Wang Lin couldn't help but want to immediately go back and tell his parents that their son had not disappointed them. Their son had become successful. Wang Lin, who was currently in the golden elixir period, was already an absolute existence like an immortal to ordinary people. In front of Lin Feng, Wang Lin did not hide his truest thoughts, and Lin Feng smiled as he looked at Wang Lin, who had always been silent and cold. Wang Lin suddenly became a chatterbox, constantly recalling the trivial matters of the past. Chapter 396. Lin Feng listened to Wang Lin's nagging, but he didn't feel annoyed. Instead, he smiled. In the end, Wang Lin came back to his senses and looked at his master with some embarrassment. Lin Feng smiled and said, "Everything else is fine, but I don't have a wife yet. I'm really sorry to your parents." Wang Lin was speechless. After a while, he smiled bitterly and shook his head. "When I go back, I'm going to be nagged by my mother." It looked like he was smiling bitterly, but his heart was full of warmth. Lin Feng waved his hand. "Okay, go. Be careful on the road." Wang Lin bowed. "Yes, master. Disciple will go now. Master, take care." He returned to his mortal forest residence. It was still a simple wooden house, but there was an extra room in the small courtyard. Wang Lin's personal disciple, Li Xingfei, lived there. Li Xingfei was meditating in the open space in front of the house. When she saw Wang Lin, she quickly stood up and bowed. Disciple greets master. Wang Lin's mood had calmed down. His expression was indifferent, but he didn't seem cold to his disciple. Li Xingfei was still in the qi refinement stage. The Dao she practiced was Zhu Yi's 8 trigrams Taoist canon. When she reached foundation establishment, it would be upgraded to Wang Lin's myriad heavens Dao scripture. After Wang Lin assigned homework to Li Xingfei, he gave her a jade slip and said, "Master will be away from the mountain for a while. During this time, you can focus on your cultivation. Master has left the detailed explanation of Dao in this jade slip. If there's anything you don't understand, you can go to the Qiantian Palace to find your second martial uncle. He will explain it to you." "I've already told him." Li Xingfei looked at Wang Lin. After a moment of hesitation, she asked softly, "Can this disciple accompany master?" Her voice grew softer and softer as she looked at Wang Lin anxiously. Wang Lin did not mind. He just shook his head and said, "There's no need for you to accompany us. Just stay on the mountain and cultivate in peace. The spiritual energy on Jade Capital Mountain is much denser than the outside world. Cultivating here will yield twice the results with half the effort." Li Xingfei nodded. "Disciple will obey master's order." Wang Lin's figure flashed, and he disappeared from where he stood. After bidding farewell to his senior and junior brothers, he left Yujing Mountain through Lin Feng's talisman. Then, with a flip of his palm, a white elephant seal appeared in his palm. The cloud elephant seal turned into a ball of white light and flashed twice in the air. A white elephant the size of a small mountain walked out of it. Wang Lin sat on the head of the elephant. The white elephant let out a long trumpet and took a step forward. As the earth shook and the mountains shook, a crack suddenly appeared in the space. The white elephant carried Wang Lin into the crack and disappeared in an instant. After watching Wang Lin leave the mountain, Lin Feng sat down on the branch of the mysterious heaven treasure tree again, and began to refine the purple flag. He also merged the Yuanying souls of the 2 late-stage Yuanying cultivators from the Wind God sect with the Dharma of heaven and earth, and refined them into fake gods. Lin Feng continued to strengthen and improve the purple flag and sealed the fake gods into it. Refining artifacts was an extremely long process. Many cultivators below the primordial soul stage had to spend a lot of time and effort to refine artifacts, let alone Dharma treasures for primordial soul cultivators. Lin Feng had rare treasures like the mysterious heaven treasure tree and the cyclic purple qi. In addition to his own profound Dharma techniques, he had always been able to save time and effort in refining artifacts. This time, he spent a lot of time refining the purple flag. He used several months to refine this treasure. On one hand, it was to build a foundation for the future improvement of the treasure. On the other hand, it was also because of Lin Feng's own whims. During the refining process, he kept bursting with inspiration. Then he put these wonderful ideas into practice, experimenting and improving on the purple flag. During this process, Lin Feng was actually accumulating the Dharma techniques he had cultivated in the past. Many refining methods were refined because of this. In fact, it was also an extension of Lin Feng's understanding of the great Tao of heaven and earth and the divergence of his thinking in the Dharma techniques cultivation. Many people were amazed by the pair of sworn brothers, Shi Tianhao and Shi Tianyi. At such a young age, their cultivation was so high and they were extremely demonic. But if we really had to talk about it, counting from when Lin Feng first came to this world, counting from when he started cultivating Tao techniques, it has only been a dozen or so years. In these dozen or so years, he has already walked all the way to the middle stage of nascent soul. His improvement speed can be said to be shocking. In this, the system helped a lot. But even so, the speed of improvement of Lin Feng's Dharma techniques was also extremely terrifying. With such rapid improvement, even though Lin Feng's foundation is solid, there are still many details that he didn't have time to savor. During these few months of refining the purple flag, Lin Feng was carefully combing through the bits and pieces of his Dao technique. It should be said that the gains were quite considerable. After this sorting, Lin Feng's future path of cultivation would be even smoother and smoother. After a few months, Lin Feng also received many lucky draw chances. But he did not use any of them and saved them all. After a period of time, when he was fully prepared, he wanted to make a big bet. During this time, apart from refining the purple flag, Lin Feng also took some time to study the Sky Mirage golden bead. At least for now, he could not find any connection between this item and the legendary Saint Emperor of the monster race. However, Lin Feng had almost figured out the function of this artifact, but there were still some things that he needed to verify. Not only can it clone inanimate objects, but it can also clone living things. Lin Feng held the Sky Mirage golden bead in his hand. He had used the Sky Mirage golden bead to clone himself before, but the Sky Mirage golden bead turned into a clone that was identical to Lin Feng. The clone also had its own consciousness, but it did not have its own consciousness. Instead, it shared the same consciousness with Lin Feng's main body. It was similar to the Divine Battle clone and the Iron Tree clone, but its ability was completely identical to the main body. From appearance to ability, it was exactly the same. It could be said that apart from Lin Feng himself, no one could tell which was the clone and which was the main body. Lin Feng thought. Tao Master Tianfeng used this artifact to clone the Nine Heavens Gale formation, so the artifact can't be used for a short time. Otherwise, he could have used it to clone himself. If he escaped in two different directions, it would be impossible to distinguish the real one from the fake one. Golden Crow Great Saint, and I could only chase him separately. The duration of the clone depended on the strength of the clone. The duration was inversely proportional to the strength of the clone. The stronger the clone, the shorter the duration. After each use, the clone would return to the appearance of the Sky Mirage golden bead. The mist inside the bead was completely milky white, and it would take 7 days to recover. When it recovered to its peak state, the mist inside the bead would all turn golden. The Sky Mirage golden bead's duplication ability was limited. At least, it could not duplicate Yujing Mountain, the mysterious sky treasure tree, or the Yin and Yang life and death formation. At the moment, due to the lack of materials, the Yin and Yang life and death formation had not shown its full strength. But obviously, the level of its formation was very high, so powerful that the Sky Mirage golden bead could only look back. The Flame Dragon heavenly armor, the fake god refined by Lin Feng, and the life-sealing stone of the magic treasure embryo could be duplicated. The giant sword box in the mysterious Skytime cave could not be duplicated, and the remnant soul of the Golden Crow Great Saint suppressed by the giant sword could not be duplicated. The last point was a major discovery, and it allowed Lin Feng to gradually understand the upper limit of the Sky Mirage golden bead's current ability. The old Golden Crow was seriously injured. Although a skinny camel was bigger than a horse, and even the remnant soul was stronger than a demon king, it was definitely weaker than a great saint who had cultivated an immortal demon soul. In terms of strength, it was roughly the same as the fake god, and weaker than the Flame Dragon heavenly armor. However, the fake god and the Flame Dragon heavenly armor could be duplicated, but the remnant soul of the Golden Crow Great Saint could not be duplicated. Lin Feng guessed that the upper limit of the Sky Mirage golden bead's duplication ability was likely to stop at the first tier of the primordial divinity transformation realm. Beyond that, the Sky Mirage golden bead could not duplicate. The reason why the Nine Heavens Gale formation was so powerful was because of the special nature of the formation itself. It could only obtain the power by borrowing the natural power of heaven and earth. However, the level of the formation map itself was not as high as the Yin and Yang life and death formation, and the Nine Luminary sky-shattering formation. Lin Feng placed the Sky Mirage golden bead in front of him, and studied it for a moment. Well, even so, it is still a very good treasure. If used properly, it might be more powerful than ordinary magic treasures. On the other hand, the legend of the demon race's Saint Emperor's legacy cannot be verified. I can put it aside for now. After putting away the Sky Mirage golden bead, Lin Feng, who was sitting cross-legged on the branch of the treasure tree, stood up and looked into the distant void. Winter is about to pass. This spring, it will be time for Xiaoyi to participate in the imperial examination. The desolate Sky Valley, which had been quiet for half a year, had recently regained its liveliness. The little Shi Tianhao, who had been recuperating in the extreme Yin pool of the Nirvana Utopia, had finally recovered from his injuries not long ago. Although he was still a little weak, there was a faint dark green luster flowing under Shi Tianhao's skin. Previously, he had been soaking in the extreme pool. Yang Qing, who was afraid that her little junior brother's injuries would leave behind any future problems, stayed by his side day and night, constantly urging the cyclic purple qi and extreme true water to water Shi Tianhao's body. At this moment, after the baptism, Shi Tianhao's body even had a sign of benefiting from a disaster. When he finished refining the spiritual qi in his body, his physical strength and magic power would be a level higher than before he was injured. However, the little fellow was more concerned about whether the animals and plants he raised in the desolate Sky Valley had been harmed by Tunton. Fortunately, Lin Feng knew him too well. While he was recuperating, he had taken Tunton out of the desolate Sky Valley, causing the little Taotai to curse him for several months, while the little Shi Tianhao was so moved that tears streamed down his face. Seeing that the desolate Sky Valley had regained its vitality, Lin Feng smiled. He had already arrived outside Zhu Yi's Qiantian Hall. In the simple and dignified hall, there were several weak but vigorous magic power surging. Naturally, it was Zhu Yi's disciples who were cultivating. Zhu Yi himself was also in the Qiantian Hall. His expression was genial, but he was meticulous and strict in testing his disciples' cultivation. Sensing Lin Feng's summon, Zhu Yi walked out and bowed to Lin Feng. Disciple pays his respects to master. Lin Feng smiled. Winter passes and spring comes. Xiaoyi, are you ready? Zhu Yi smiled faintly. Although I have been cultivating Dao techniques all these years, once I understand the great Dao of heaven and earth, I will understand all other techniques. I have never let go of the principles of a scholar. I have always been quietly waiting for this year's scholar selection. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.